See, anyway.
Good evening, everyone. It is now 7 p.m. Welcome to the Kechi City Council meeting for February 26, 2026. Debbie, would you call roll, please?
Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Tonight I have a special guest with us as we celebrate Black History Month. She's a wonderful neighbor. She has committed a lot of time and volunteerism to the city of Kechi as well as the surrounding area. I'd like to welcome Miss B. Burkhalter to the invocation, and afterwards please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Welcome. Yes.
Loving, caring, giving, having, Kechi, you're always sharing. Many more Kechians, can you imagine such? Of course you can, because we've all got that Kechian touch. I'm small in stature, only in heaven belief, and I lead by example. And Kechi is always counted on me, and you can too, as Kechians in this city. As I make a difference of becoming the first African American living on the northeast end of Sioux Court. Over 30 plus years ago, there was only a dirt road and there was no Chippewa. And our neighbors were the acres, deers, and the many creatures that inhabited. I'm the hardworking, inspirational, dedicated, and reasonable B.K. Burkhalter. Thank you, Mayor Joni Harris, for the opportunity to present our invocation. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a community service organization. Our organization for over 113 years, and the first Black organization to march in our women's suffrage in 1913. I share greetings to the rest of the Kechi leadership, my fellow Kechians, and any others watching. The word says, enter into his courts with praise, and into his courts with thanksgiving unto him, and bless his holy name. Psalms 104. The prayer is, thank you, Kechi, a place called home. We thank you, Kechi, for over 30 years ago. You had only 202 residents. You welcomed hundreds of thousands of travelers to pass through on Oliver, on those dark, narrow streets headed for I-254 to El Dorado. On Oliver, we thank you for a restaurant that has shared her delicacies. And once a week, chocolate cake without miss. Thank you for a thriving business, Buck Alley, that built our home. Kechi, we thank you for the playhouse that has draped on the corner of 61st and Oliver for years, yielding laughter and plays of every array. When Mayor, previously Naomi, yielded her talents with vigor and with the shores of Kechi, trusted her leadership and triumphed in her ability to give her best to our city. Thank you, Kechi, for the many antique businesses that brought many people to the park to park their cars on the narrow parking side while spending their coins, sharing an opportunity to tour our city. Kechi, thank you for the church that has fed many families willingly and continues to share. And our businesses today being with proudness from the wood shop, glass shop, quilt store, and all the other business at the end of 61st and Woodlawn. Our town post office, who has faithfully delivered our mail without hesitation, and the expertise of our maintenance, the service that has yielded service to our streets. We thank you. And least I forget, most of all, our water tower, who at one time literally yielded water and yielded storage and for us to drink. Thank you for sharing your tallness over the many years of your inception to our great city. Today, we see your waist draped with heavy technology and your head adorned with the precious of additional technology. No longer do you share water from your waters within, but still, let my voice ring out. Thank you, Kechi Tower. You have become mightier in your colorful display. You splash color, signifying welcome to our city. You shout from your tall legs and represent a diverseness of families in our city of every accord. From the tip top, every evening, your color, viewing Kechi as the place of front and back. Welcome, welcome all. Come to our city. You are indeed welcome. It is a place called home. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council, moving on to the approval of the agenda. Is there any additions? And any executive session tonight? No, so we will strike item 12. And then I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the agenda, striking item 12.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Brewer, second by Councilmember Hedstrom. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to the approval of the consent agenda. Council, is there anything anyone wants pulled from the consent agenda tonight? Okay, I would entertain a motion then.
We approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Councilmember Hedstrom, second by Councilmember Dwyer. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to communications. Is there any Kechi civic groups or committees who would like to speak this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to community announcements. Tuesday evenings from 5:30 to 7:30, you can enjoy a community meal at the Kechi United Methodist Church. I have a few specific announcements for things that are now happening in the city. First is a project update for 300 South Oliver Street, also known as Turtle Creek Development. The city has received several questions and concerns regarding the project currently underway at 300 South Oliver Street. Please note that this project is a private development and is not a city project. All work taking place at this site has received approval from the Planning Commission and city engineers. City engineers continue to monitor the project to ensure it remains within the approved scope of work. So far, all progress completed is consistent with what was reviewed and approved. We now have a sidewalk closure notice for the safety of the public and to allow the completion of the new infrastructure improvements in the area. The sidewalk on the east side of Oliver Street in front of the project will remain closed until substantial completion of the project. We appreciate your patience and understanding as this work continues. This is my added note from the city, my personal view. This is a main route for residents who walk in our town. So please use extra caution if you are going to continue walking your normal route, because you're going to have to skirt around on the actual roadway, which I don't recommend doing. So just please be extra careful if you decide to continue walking that route. And I ask also that drivers please use extra caution during this time, as there could be people walking around that closure. Over the next few months, our public works crews will be painting gas meters and replacing water meters and water meter pits throughout the city as time allows. Crews will attempt to make courtesy knocks to notify residents when they are working on your property. Please note that brief access to meter areas may be necessary to complete this work. We appreciate your patience and cooperation as we continue maintaining and improving our utility infrastructure. Thank you. And finally, congratulations to Park City. They had their senior center ribbon cutting yesterday. It was well attended. Myself and City Administrator Densby were both in attendance. It's a wonderful facility, 13,000 square feet. It is open to all Sedgwick County residents who are 55 and better, according to Mayor Lenher of Park City. And I really encourage our residents to utilize the senior center. It's an absolutely beautiful addition and a blessing to our community, as well as Park City. And they actually came in over $100,000 under budget on a construction project. So great job, Park City, on accomplishing that. Council, does anyone else have community announcements for this evening? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. Debbie, are there any public comments for the public comment time?
Cheryl Hobson.
What's playground? I think all of these
Are all of them for
They are.
that item?
They're all playground.
Okay,
Playground part, yes.
okay.
Well, these they want to talk about during their new business.
The previous comments, there was none, so nothing to address. I apologize for that. Okay, so we will move on to staff reports then. Thomas, Public Works? Welcome.
Council, Mayor. So my report basically is for January, most of February. We kind of give our reports the week before, so there'll be some things I add at the end of this that happened this week. Basically, we located about 80 locates. Like I said, last year was a record year for the city. I don't think this year's going to be any different with the developments and stuff we got going on. Took down Christmas lights throughout the city. We actually cleaned the fair building. Shampooed the carpet, set up new shelving over there. I know I spelled it a little wrong, nobody caught that. I did on my paper, but not on yours. We graded dirt roads twice. Hauled approximately 100 tons of sand and rock up the hillside. Started cleaning some ditches up there after this last 2-inch rain. We had some run over and some spots that we don't necessarily see run over. So that'll be interesting to watch into the future. I think that some of those streets and streams maybe need to be cleaned or dredged out. It's probably never been done. Repaired some potholes on Woodlawn. There's still a few left there that we need to get to. The whole Public Works attended 811 training. The state has changed the guidelines on that to like 20 days. If you're within there, they can continue it on. The reason for that is hopefully the skilled market will cut down on our locate tickets. We'll also help contractors not have to remember to call that in by the 12th day because it's the 15th day of a reset. So to continue those on, still a 3-day period before you can dig. So if you call in a locate, you can't dig tomorrow, unfortunately. Malachi and Noah attended CEO training in McPherson. It's a requirement. There's a test they have to pass in order to get through there to get their CDL. Jason was there the very next day. He is a certified CDL trainer for the city. We kept one on since Earl decided to retire. We can't use his anymore. That way, anybody that we hired can actually be trained here. We don't have to send them out to classes, which is a great benefit for the city and a cost that we won't have to give out to somebody else to train them. They started working on upgrading Kechi Road. Should take about the gas line along Kechi Road. We are upgrading from a 2-inch old steel line that was put in like 1980 to a 6-inch line to help for volume purposes out east as we head out east. That is also going to cause us to bore underneath the railroad tracks. That has been a strenuous process. I've been in talks, or trying to be in talks with EP for over a year now. We finally did get our engineering approved. Still waiting on that approval paper, but they are difficult to deal with for sure. Had numerous inspections. Like I said, Malachi and Noah continue painting storm grates. So I can put that, keep it clean, drain to the stream. Obviously, they thought they should paint the road too. So that is a joke. It was not on purpose. We have a guy coming in next week to show us a street sweeper. He's going to use some steel brushes. He's pretty sure that we can get that up off the ground. So it won't be there for long. We removed trees from the city park. We still have a few over there left to remove. Some of those old cottonwoods that are there that are dead. I believe there's 3 or 4. I think they removed about 7 to 10 from that southern area. Replaced 30 gas MIUs and gas meters. Unfortunately, through the winter time, those things tend to break. The cogs in there are just plastic. I don't think anything's made of steel anymore. But so replace those. Like Mayor said, we will be out changing meters. Some of those meters are 30 years old. We're a little bit out of compliance on when we should be checking those and changing those out. Same with the water. A lot of our water meters are 30, 40 plus years old. So we're going to be looking at changing those out, possibly changing meter sets, and when we're there, also hydro vacuum the old meter or the old meter cans out, especially if they're the old felt. And if you see a recess, hopefully we'll level off your front yard and get those divots out so everybody complains about driving over those and their back tire landing on them or splitting them or whatever it may be. So as the weather allows us to do that, we will. This week, Administrator Jensby signed off on a engineering paper. So I am working with USDI. I have sent them all of our gas infrastructure needs, future growth that we may see in the city. They're going to do a modeling and engineering of what our a master plan of our gas system, what we're going to need into the future, what those costs may be. Be a little patient. I just gave them that information 2 days ago. So they were supposed to start working on that immediately. I'm also reached out to Southern Star about the potential needs for the future and what that might look like for the city also. That connection to the city was put in 1957. So I think we've grown, as I heard say earlier, 202 population. So a little over 2,400 now. So when you start doing that, it's time to upgrade. And so we'll see where that lies. But that's kind of some things that we've been working on throughout the city. Also, this week we started on Indeed looking for 2 more public works employees. So I've been filtering through resumes and looking through those also. So if you know any people that like to freeze or like to burn up, throughout the year, they don't mind that, send them my way. So, and if y'all have any questions, I'll be happy to ask them or answer them.
Any questions, council?
Thank you.
I have a couple. First off, I'd like to say thank you to City Administrator Jensby as well as to Thomas Bevan to move forward with doing this modeling for the gas system. I really appreciate it. It's been very high on my list to have that done. And then I just have a second question. With the gas work that's being done on the pipe, are we anticipating road closure at all that might happen when they're working along there, trying to bore it when they go to bore under the railroad? Is it far enough off the road that we don't think it's going to interfere?
No, so we shouldn't have any road closures at all. The good thing is we only have a 30-foot easement on the east side of the railroad, but we have a 60-foot, I believe, on the west side. And with what the railroad is making us do is deflect 10 feet away. So we're going to end up about 40 feet, which will put us almost up by the Prairie Creek sign. With a 10-inch pipe that we have to put the 6-inch through, steel pipe that has to be welded together as we pull that in. So it's not an easy task, but they are making us put that in and go 10 feet around any of their switching or anything that has anything to do with that railroad. So
I'm sorry. So on the replacement of the gas meters, is that part of an ongoing project? I mean, our replacement plan, or is it just still as needed?
So no, the gas meters we have a plan.
Okay.
So you're technically supposed to check or take out or replace every 10 years water and gas meters. I'm pretty sure that probably hasn't been done in the past. That requires a lot of work. The new water meters that they come out with say that you don't actually have to test them for 20 years. So we're putting in ultrasonic meters. That'll at least get us until I'm retired. And that person can take over. I wouldn't do that, but so that's what we're switching to now. Usually they're 10 years and 1 million gallons. So if any resident has used 1 million gallons in their home, which I highly doubt, it's probably time to be tested, or give me a call and I will test it or take it out and we'll see what goes on, but I don't think anybody wants any unnecessary bills, so.
Thank you, Thomas. Anyone else? Okay, really appreciate
Thank you.
your report. Chief Moore, Chief Fire Department, please. Or police, fire. Chief Police Department, please. Can you tell what's in the news lately? It's just like fire this, fire
Oh,
that.
yeah, fireman, always. Hey, so, pretty short and sweet. Gonna talk about our, calls for service. We had 321 calls for service in January this year. That's up 108 from last January. We had, 52 dispatch calls. Last January, we had 54. So that went down 2 calls. The difference is in self-initiated activity. Last January, it was 54, and this January, we saw 269. So, again, self-initiated traffic stops, simple stuff like that. Councilwoman Moreland requested stats for the court. We could pull 273 cases / citations that made it to court in 2025. That does not include citations or court cases that were settled outside of the court. So 273 were processed and pushed through. Hiring. We're currently processing about 25 applications for our one position we're hiring for. We're about to wrap that up. As you know, backgrounds and that type of stuff take a while, especially when you're hiring for sensitive positions, such as law enforcement. So we're getting that wrapped up. We should have something to you guys here pretty quick on that. Filling up our schedules for training this year. We got officers getting signed up for specialized training that they can bring back and get the police department moving forward on those things. Defensive tactics, a couple other things that we don't have fielded at this time in the agency. See, January we saw the snow days. Our guys were busy with car crashes, domestic violence calls. Anytime people are cooped up in the house together, they tend not to get along, it seems like. So, especially in situations where they can't leave. So we worked several of those, several accidents, but got taken care of the guys around the clock that night. Just want to give them a shout out. They were there for it all. So, legislative conference went smooth in January. We met with our senators and our House members. I was able to testify on the domestic violence bill that would put monitoring on violent domestic violence offenders, ankle monitoring for as post incarceration release. So that's the time between getting out of jail and going to court. So we'll see how that bill goes. Not sure where it's at right now, but it's a good one. I think it's one that's solid. So. And then our team were geared up to kick off our community policing programs. It's springtime. At least Mother Nature's making us think that right now. Hopefully we don't get into a great snowstorm in the next month. But we're going to gear up for springtime. So we're going to kick it off next month with Pop with the Cop. This is a twist on Coffee with the Cop, that kind of thing, except this is going to be for families and children and all of that. So we're doing evening time, probably a Friday evening. All of our officers will be on hand. We want the children to come in and ask questions, anything they got. They can throw at us. Nothing's off limits. We'll answer what we can. We'll have golf carts out there to be looked through and snacks and sodas. And, of course, parents can ask questions to the police department and just kind of where we're at on things. So be looking for that next month. And one more, we attended a training after the legislative conference. It was to catch a predator and keep them. We trained with KDI over that and how they utilize their digital forensics unit and the different things on that, on how to catch people who are set on harming our children sexually. Won't stand for it, will not stand for it. So Kechi Police Department's geared up, we're partnered up. And of course we also have a wonderful program here in Wichita we can kick stuff over to as well, the Exploited Children's BMCU, Missing Children's Unit. So they help us out a lot. And so good stuff there, but that's where your police department's at. Any questions?
Council, do you have any questions?
I had a couple that I've been asked, and one of them was, so when we see these cases, like you say that there's the 321 calls, and I know you said that the ones are the 269 are the self-initiated, which are basically traffic stops. Is there kind of a breakdown? Because I know some people are like, whoa, what's happening that we're having so many calls, and what kind of nature?
Yeah, so we've talked about that in the past. Breaking those calls down with dispatch is going to be very time consuming because the calls are not always labeled correctly in the computer system. So if I was to report that we had 5 domestic violence calls, and 2 of those domestic violence calls were the same child who refused to go to school, it's not a domestic violence call, but at times dispatch will label it that, and that's what we get sent to. So reading our call text is very important. We could have an officer go through 269 calls and wrap it all out and do all that, but that'd be very time consuming. The majority of those are not traffic stops. The majority of those are business checks. The majority of those are checking on people walking down roadways, anything that they check out to get out of their car. Could be getting out of the car to walk around the park, any of those things. So business checks, home checks, vacation watches, all of that roll into that number.
So, and then, on the court cases, is there a report that can be ran to say what kind of court cases those are, whether they're just the traffic, I mean, cause out of the 273, how many of them are basically traffic stops that people are like, hey, I don't really wanna pay this, so I'm gonna go to court, versus something else people should be concerned about?
I don't believe so.
Anyone else?
I just want to say thank you. My wife, Grandma, brought 2 of her grandkids up to the police department to bring cake. And they were most excited, I think, about meeting Rocky.
Yes, yes,
And so thank you for your hospitality and welcoming them.
yes. Thank you, and thank you for the cake. After Kindness thing kicked off that week, we had more snacks. I'm telling you, the treadmill's been running hard in the back room. Guys are trying to keep that off the belt line, so we don't have an expensive uniform allowance to extend the duty belt. But thank you all for stopping by, and that goes to all the community. Y'all stepped up in a big, big way. We got letters, we got, I'm so deep in the Facebook messages, it's not even funny. And then, again, Rocky, he's there every now and then. We've got 2 things coming up next week where he's been scheduled to make some appearances and do some training, and he's a pretty popular guy, even retired. So
They talked more about Rocky than anyone else.
good. They should. He's the real MVP for sure. So
You did not share.
no, I'll bring him next time. Promise.
No, not the dog.
Not the drinks. If y'all can see the look I just got,
I saw.
it was into my soul. So, anyway, thank you guys.
Chief, I would just like to say thank you. Yesterday there was an incident on Oliver right as it got dark, and the department responded very well. All the first responders involved to keep Oliver safe. And it was at such a tough time with it just getting dark and cars and everything happening. And so just a shout out of praise and thank you for how that was really handled really well, and everyone could navigate around that while those in need were taken care of.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass it on to the guys. It's springtime. We're gonna start heating up, man. We're gonna be busy. It's gonna be a busy year. So, thank you.
Thank you. Dustin, oh, there you are. Dustin, zoning, IT, stormwater, and code enforcement. Welcome.
Thank you. Zoning, no planning commission meeting for the month of March due to no scheduled cases. We will meet in April to go over any cases that we might have by then, and to also go over the changes to the regulations, amendments for the Kechi zoning regulations subdivision, and possibly the comp plan, depending on what we come up with. All that hearing is going to do is I'll present the changes that have been presented as a whole, and PEC by then will have looked them over, write something up that looks official, better than what I could probably do, and then we will have a vote to have a public hearing on to change that. So we have to have a meeting to have a meeting before we can make those changes. IT, I don't want to talk too much about it, but we'll see that on the agenda at 9B later tonight. On the 23rd, several staff members went to Access Systems to look at a new printer copier machine and just get a feel on that. Waiting to hear feedback from all of the staff on that before we decide what's happening with a new copier printer machine. Stormwater, the MS4 2025 permit has been turned in. Now I wait for the judges of KDHE to judge it and tell me everything that needs to be fixed on it or fixed for 2026. Code enforcement, there's nothing to report at this time, thankfully, but with it being spring, I expect it to pick up with so and so's not cutting their yard, or there's trash over here, all that kind of stuff. Are there any questions for me?
I just have one question. What's like one of the top one or two things that ends up being code enforcement? I mean, other than like mowing the lawn, is it like people not realizing they need a permit to build a shed, or what are like your top issues that usually come up?
Sheds will sneak up very quickly and quietly without a permit. So those really don't get a whole lot of attention until a neighbor wants to put theirs up and they're like, well, so-and-so put it up and didn't get permission. I can't do anything about that. But the biggest thing is usually grass. Grass gets out of control. There's empty lots that are around the city. They don't get the attention that the neighborhood would like to get. And some of them are legitimately out of control. They just don't get mowed. So the biggest violator is trash, grass, with trash probably being a close second.
And sometimes it's seniors or it's someone who's dealing with a major health issue that sometimes isn't getting to mow their grass. Can they call the city do we have any kind of volunteer services that are available for people who are just not in a great spot and need some assistance?
That volunteer service is me in a way. I reach out.
Sorry.
I try to reach out to Boy Scouts of America. I try to reach out to, in the summertime, there's a program for high school students and middle school students that go around and mow a lot, and I'll try to reach out to them to get something mowed. I have reached out to the local churches here to get a roof repaired on somebody's house and to get their lawn mowed. Thankfully, they were willing to work with me, and it was very easy. The church took it over real quick, and once it got done, the case was closed and we moved on.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
That's great feedback. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, City Administrator Genesee, administration report.
Mayor and Council, you have my report before you. I won't go through the whole thing in respect for the meeting tonight, but I will summarize a few things. We here at City Hall have been busy this month. We've been doing a lot of things. One of those is working on the gas utility safety information that we're required to put out each year and adjusting the water rates for the increases that were approved last year that will go into effect in March. Will be seen on the March bill.
No, April bill, March
April bill.
usage.
Okay, April bill, March usage.
Yes.
So we will have more information at the meeting next month, a little closer to those changes to explain through things. Met with our insurance agent for the city's property insurance renewal. We don't have any figures in yet. We expect slight increases. We budget about a 10% variance in those each year. We just don't know where they'll fall, but the market, from what he said, suggests that there'll be a slight increase. Technology and communication, we have an agenda item tonight for technology, so I won't go over that right now. Development within the city, I met with Jeff Englert about the project timeline for the Turtle Creek project. We hosted a kickoff meeting for Turtle Creek with engineers, owners, and city officials. A kickoff meeting for the SEAL Lab, which is being built in our industrial park, with engineers, owners, and city officials, city staff. Met with several developers and people interested in developing with inside the city. And we have 2 new buildings that are going vertical in the industrial park. SEAL Lab, which is one of them, which is next to Meter Engineering, and AMP Crane, or AMP Crane, which you can see from 254. It's going right up next to 254, so it's nice to see new things happening out there. Legislative, I submitted some testimony on a property tax revenue limits, a House bill that was being proposed. Last I heard, it was tied up and they don't expect it to go anywhere because opposition to that this year. I'm sure it will come up again next year. Attended local government meetings, attended the Bel Air Chamber of Commerce meeting, 254 meetings, a bunch of other places, talked to a bunch of other people advocating for Kechi and telling them how great a place it is to come live. So that's kind of a summary of what I did this month. I do want to talk about one thing real quick before I wrap up here, and that is our meeting minutes. You will notice that we didn't have the minutes included in the agenda this time. We've gotten to a point, I think, where we need a little bit of guidance on our minutes and what we want included in those. We've kind of transitioned to the desire, I guess, or request to have a lot of things quoted verbatim in our minutes. And that is causing Debbie specifically a lot of time and a lot of headache. For example, this past month, she spent over 16 hours trying to do 1 minute session from the council meeting. 16 hours is 2 days of her time that is taken away from doing accounting and AP, getting checks out, invoices processed, and it's really, I'm not trying to single her out, but she's the one responsible for it, and it's really causing a burden to her. So we met as staff, and our recommendation to council is that on our minutes for our meetings, that we start recording action items only. So only items that are directly tied to the agenda, recording the votes, minor notes about what the discussion was, but getting away from verbatim conversations. And one of the reasons we ask that is because it's really a duplication of services. We're recording the meetings, we save those recordings, and we're working to get those recordings posted on the website. So if there's any interest in what was said specifically during public comments or by a member of staff during the meeting, those will be readily available. And so anybody can go in, get on the city's website and go back and listen to that real time. So our ask of the council is that we get a consensus that it's okay for us to move to action items only on our minutes as we move, which would save us a lot of time.
I guess having been somebody who's been in that position, I would request that, and I agree 100% on the action items, but I would request on public forum that we continue to say who spoke and generally what the topic was. I don't believe we need to be verbatim, but I know that's not an action item, but we should make sure that we have a record, like I said, who was here and if they did speak, to give them.
Absolutely. We will continue to do that. Yeah.
And I agree with Teresa. I'm on several boards, and generally minutes are action items.
Yeah.
But to your point, I think it's important, who was at the meeting, who spoke. and so-
Yeah, I should have elaborated. That was part of our discussion.
Okay,
That
that's
was
one
part of
thing.
our discussion.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? Council, go ahead.
I agree.
Yeah.
Good direction.
Okay, I hear consensus, so we will move towards that. We will continue to record, retain. We do need to come up with a retention policy on our videos. I think in probably 3 years to retain those and then get rid of them. So, but as we start to evolve and upgrade things, it will make it easier for us.
And I've brought this up before, is the potential of looking at AI software as it's developed that could take the minutes and someone wouldn't actually have to be transcribing them, they would have to be reviewed, but that's obviously a council discussion, looking at cost and feasibility at this time, or if it'll be sometime later in the future. So yeah, I'd just like to bring up one other thing. Yes, we put in opposition to HB 2745. I actually am not in agreement with that. I am neutral to support HB 2745, which is a property tax reduction. Most local government and local government officials are opposed. However, I do choose a different position. And this morning, the House passed HB 2745, so it will be heading to the Senate next. So, council, anything else? Okay, we will move on. So, unfinished business, the digital sign replacement. City Administrator Dempsey?
Mayor and Council, the proposal that you have from staff is the same one that we presented a couple months ago. The only changes are we updated the quotes. You'll notice the one from Wichita Sign Company stayed the same. The one from Miracle Signs or George Lay Signs was originally around $62,000, and I believe it came in at, it was requoted much lower at 57, which is good for us. But as far as the research that staff has done, the time and effort that they put into it, we stand with our original recommendation of the miracle sign with the 6mm display for the new revised cost of approximately $57.
So at the special meeting that we held back in January, council had requested that the demonstration be done by Wichita Sign Company on their software. What did that pan out to be?
Yeah, we staff decided it would really not be beneficial to us. No matter what we do, if we go with whichever sign company we go with, we're going to have to transition to a different software from what we have now. Our staff is perfectly capable of learning new systems. Nobody had any issues with learning a new system, so we didn't think it would be advantageous to us as a group.
I knew that was, excuse me, that was presented as a concern with staying with Watchfire was the software, so I just didn't know if what happened with that. I will speak to and I think, did I see Mary?
Yeah, Mary's back in the corner.
Mary's back.
Okay, I thought I saw you. So one of the things that Wichita Sign said that they did that I found particularly attractive, and I wanted to ask you since they presented after you did, was an alert system that would go in that they automatically, so like if there's a silver alert or a boil water alert, and per se it was after hours, that they could do the update, and so we wouldn't have to have somebody notified and come in and do it. Is that something that would be available with your system?
I am going to say that you are able to program the software from anywhere as long as that laptop is connected to Wi-Fi. So I wouldn't think we would need to help.
Okay, it was something that.
It's called IPAWS, IPAWS. It's a FEMA related, so it's like a civic alert. So if something's happening, whether it's weather, someone's missing, whatever it is, it automatically interrupts your sign and it puts the alert on the sign.
Well, these are cellular broadband, and if that is a system, if that system can work on cellular broadband, I don't know why we couldn't. But I can certainly check on it.
Thank you.
Council, anyone else have discussion about digital sign?
The other thing that we had done was looked at the various sizes. So I will say that I felt for our needs that I did not feel like we needed to go to the smallest resolution. I felt like when we looked at the signs, the 8mm resolution, I know it's not the finest as far as details, but based on our sign, I personally didn't feel like we needed to go to the 6mm. I did think there was a significant difference between the 8mm and the 10mm, but that would be what I saw as.
Unfortunately, he was working.
So, that's where I'm falling. I don't know, and I know it's only $6,000 if we go with George Lay. It's a little bit, it's, a difference to $40,000 if we go with Wichita Sign, but I did feel like the resolution at the 6mm, it gave a different appearance. It gave that quilted appearance that we were seeing. So.
And I would have a question maybe for Mary regarding that. So 6mm versus 8mm, 6mm being newer technology, is the technology with 6mm newer?
Yes, we started at 35 and we've worked our way down to 10 is what I would call our standard right now. 8 is a couple of years newer, and then 6, and then we'll be coming out with 4 next year.
So my question would be, with the 6 being newer technology, and I know there's certain warranties on it, but can you speak to the longevity? Is there a longevity difference between the 6 millimeter and the 8 millimeter as far as its newer technology?
No, they're going to be identical in their wear and their support between the different pixel arrangements.
Anyone else have anything? Okay, council, I would entertain a motion.
And I'm gonna thank you, Mary, for your presentations. I really do appreciate it, but I am gonna make a motion that we go with Wichita sign on the 9.5 millimeter sign at a cost of $40,161.85 at a cost of savings of over $17,000.
Is there a second? Motion fails for lack of a second.
I guess, Teresa, just to that, I didn't feel after seeing both the demonstrations, I think the Watchfire software is more robust software, but that's completely understandable.
I will say that, and that is why I am disappointed, because we had a question on the software, we asked for a demonstration, and we don't get that information. I know that the demonstration that we received that day was, it was all controlled by a cell phone, and it was anybody, anywhere. And I do feel like the iPause, having that technology built into it, was, could be very beneficial. So I felt like those were some things. I did also appreciate that we would get custom design, that we would have the opportunity to design some of our own screens and things that weren't just the ones that were in a software package. But we didn't get to see or get a firsthand account of how that software really would interact. So based on what they presented that day, and like I said, the $17,000 savings when this wasn't presented originally, I know it says that it's in the capital improvement fund, but it was not presented as part of the capital improvement plan. And so those were some concerns that I had. I respect, because I do think that, like I said, both sign companies are very reputable. They're going to give us a good service. So that's why I made the motion that I did.
Understood completely. And I guess between the two presentations, I felt more comfortable and felt like Watchfire was a more established and standard for these signs. Personally, it's technology, so I kind of always had a philosophy to get the latest that you can. But I would be fine with either the 6 millimeter or the 8 millimeter.
Like I said, as I stated earlier, I thought the 8 millimeter, when we saw the demonstration, there was not a significant enough difference in the 8 millimeter and the 6 millimeter for me to really want to spend the extra money on the 6 millimeter. We're already spending, more. I know that between the 6 millimeter, like I said, it is more, but I felt like when we were looking at it, we could see the differences in the displays. And that's my take on it.
Any further discussion? Are you looking toward the 6 or the 8 at this point?
I am fine with an 8mm for, $6,000 difference, I mean, I think 8mm is fine, for the savings, but.
All right, well, I will make a motion that we go with George Lay Signs, Miracle Signs for the 8mm watch fire at a cost of $51,500.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Moreland, second by Councilmember Hedstrom. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0 for the 8mm. Is there a question?
No, I was just gonna ask Debbie if any.
Oh, okay. Apologies there. Okay, moving on to new business. 9A, Park Board recommendation for playground equipment. City Administrator Dempsey.
Yeah, what do you? Okay, I don't know why it did that, but. Mayor and Council, what you have before you tonight, is going to be kind of a joint presentation between myself, Eva Benton, and Cassie Waller, and maybe even Conley from the Park Board, or any of the Park Board members that want to chip in, but, Eva and I and Cassie, will be presenting this for the most part. As you'll remember, the discussion about replacing the playground equipment has been going on for quite some time now, maybe 5 years. Even before I was here, and I've been here a little over 2 years, almost 2.5 years. About 2 years ago, the city was going to replace the park equipment, and there was some outcry from the community that we should leave that decision to the park board. At that time, we did not have a park board, so we reinstated the park board, gathered volunteers, and their first task was to figure out what we're going to do with the playground. So they got to work. They have put in much time. They took bids from multiple vendors, talked to multiple vendors, spoke with multiple vendors, and settled on a vendor by the name of Play by Design. They felt that Play by Design fitted the needs of this city. They provide a very specialized product, specialized system, assist with fundraising, and Eva can go into that a little more as to their specific decision to go with Play by Design. Play by Design, it was talked about in numerous open meetings with the park board. They were hired to come in and do a community engagement with the community. They spoke to the community, they went to area schools, and they had a reveal party that was well attended that evening. They put a lot of work into it, and we got incredible feedback from the community that this is what we want, this is what we need. They narrowed their design, and over the last few meetings, came up with their recommendation, which is being presented tonight to the city council. Some of the reasons for the park upgrades, our current equipment, if you've been over there, its useful life is gone. It is played on hard, it is played on a lot, and it is really the centerpiece of our city. And it is heavily used. And when it has that much use and that much activity, those old wooden structures just wear out. I mean, literally, you can go over there and you can see where the kids jump from one level to the next, and it is just, the wood is worn away. It's hollowed out. It's worn out. So obviously, it's time for replacement. Right now, there's just an inadequate fall surface. It's basically pea gravel. It's effective. One of the things that it does not allow is people with special needs, specifically wheelchairs or who have other, can't access it mobily. You can't get through that pea gravel. My gosh, you can hardly walk through it when I've been over there. But it's not ADA compliant for getting everybody in there who needs to use it. And it is just a maintenance burden on our public works department. They are replacing equipment, the brakes, the gravel, the all surface over there is just a nightmare for those guys to maintain. It's always getting pushed outside. It's used to fill the drinking fountain, and they're over there nearly daily cleaning the drinking fountain out so it doesn't, it doesn't work. The little tap water gets filled out with gravel, and it's just a maintenance nightmare. So it's time to upgrade. The proposed upgrades, of course, are modern equipment. It's not wooden equipment, it's steel and composite equipment that would be going in. The surface or the playground that is proposed is what they call a pour-in-place surface. It is a recycled rubber material, like you see at many of the modern parks. One I will point out is Sedgwick County Park. It's got rubberized, squishy surface. It's very low maintenance, drains well, which is another issue with the park up there. It is ADA accessible. You can push a wheelchair onto there, very easy to walk on. And most of importance for the city is that it's very low maintenance, so we're not sweeping stuff off the sidewalk. Before we get too far into this, I will go back. We applied for a grant a month or so ago for the pour-in-place all surface through the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. And I'm happy to say that late this afternoon, we were notified that we were awarded $40,000 for that grant, for that pour-in-place. So you guys are the first to hear of it, because I just heard about it late this afternoon. It's kind of hard to keep quiet. I let Neva know since she was doing part of this tonight. But that's a big win for us. That's $40,000 out of the ask for this project. So I need to step up and add anything that you want. Sure.
Mayor and council members, thanks Matt for putting that up. I don't know if you had other stuff but you have some things in your packet, and I know our park board just kind of celebrated our very first anniversary for our first year of service here for the city of Kechi. And we've been really focused on this in particular. I was challenged pretty early on to go back and read through the survey results from the 2022 survey, and really kind of see what it was that the people of Kechi wanted. And I saw overwhelmingly that we were really wanting to make sure that this was a place that we wanted to bring people to. I think we kind of took that to heart, and when we were trying to figure out what we were going to do with this playground, did we want it to look similar to what it does now, or every other playground that you might go to? And a lot of us are parents that are on the park board, which is why we chose to do that, or have been members of the Kechi community for a long time. So we specifically understood when reading through that 70% of the people who responded to that survey were really pointing towards wanting us to get new playground equipment or attractions and things like that in the park itself. And so when we're looking at that, we're trying to think about how do we do that? What do we do that actually makes this an attraction? It's one of the reasons why Play by Design was chosen, specifically because of their ability to make this an attraction-based piece. So the city of Kechi, one of the things I knew about it before I ever lived here was that it was an artistic community. It was the carved glass and the playhouse and things like that, things that bring people into Kechi from all over. And I can tell you, as someone who's been here, I have 4 kids that we frequent the park rarely. I have a handicap in my foot, and it makes it really hard for me to be able to go through the pea gravel, to be able to play with my kids on that, because it actually hurts me to have to walk through that with the way that it moves. I'm really excited about the collection of pea gravel we bring home every single time we visit the playground. It's great. I've got my entire front space redone with that, and things like that. But we knew one of our first goals that we were tasked with was really try to get this done. So we specifically asked different members of the park board to go out, find different places that they wanted to speak to give us some ideas of what different things that were offered. And so we asked them to bring it in. They presented it to us. We all had a very long discussion about each individual piece, what we liked about it, what we didn't. We gave everyone the time to go back and look at it again, come back and kind of we narrowed it down. And then took a vote for what we thought that we really wanted. And again, the thing that stood out about Play by Design was their ability to create something that was completely community driven, that was going to be one of a kind. It wasn't going to be something we picked out of a catalog. It wasn't going to be something that other people who don't live here, don't enjoy it, didn't have any kind of ability to create. Play by Design itself does support a community construction. They take on all of the ability, all the liability for that as that happens with the volunteers coming in to create that. They are nationally and internationally known for making this kind of statement piece playground. And so when we think about what we want for Kechi, we want to have that playground in that park be an extension of that as this artistic visual that we're able to do. So also bringing people from our community. We want people to come here. So the exciting piece of that is when there's a beautiful park, people want to come from all over. If you've ever been someone who has read the Wichita Mob Blog, they have a whole list. That's how we find parks to go to in our kiddos. That's how we found LW Clap Park. That's how we found the Castle Park, which coincidentally was created by Play by Design. And those are community members that we've spoken to about this to get firsthand experience about what they're doing and things like that. We did have them come in to do the design, and like Matt said, we had community drawings that got submitted. We had kiddos at the local school that our kids here in Kechi go to. I got a chance to speak to the designer and things like that, so they could take that back and create a design that was done by the community. So everybody had a say in exactly what they really wanted for things like that. So we were able to kind of be able to lay that in there as well. We talked a lot about wanting to have pieces of what Kechi is, so our colors, highlighting the turtle, things like that as well. And they were able to integrate that into the design for us too. So really just kind of understanding that when people come in, they're going to travel into Kechi. That also means they're not just going to just go to the park and leave. They're going to see who we are. They're going to have the chance to experience this really cool place. They're going to see the playhouse. Maybe they've never been exposed to that before. They're going to have the chance to walk through, carved glass. They're going to be able to go down to Bloomerang. When Moxie's comes in, where do you think they're going to go to get their coffee? So it's something we thought was really cool to also bring in another desired effect of why we want people to come into our town to appreciate it and be a part of it as well, as part of this community also. So I know that we, like Matt had said, we had already raised a little bit of money that people had tried to donate because that was our goal. We didn't want to just make it where we were going to come to you and say, we want you to foot the entire bill for this. We have a plan in place. Thankfully, Play by Design has been doing this for so long. Their group has over 100 years of experience with the people that work for them. They've been doing this type of build for 40 years. And they've built so many. They have a really good toolkit. They know how to help us with all kinds of different things that might come across. They have recommended grants to us that we can apply for, things like that. But we have been actively working with the committee to fundraise. Our commitment was to raise 50% of the overall cost. So we did apply for the grant, which got us to $40,000. We've gotten a $1,000 donation from one person already. We've gotten some other donations. We found a platform that would allow us to take in donations digitally that doesn't charge us any kind of fee or service fee at all to be able to do it. We've got some really awesome committee members on that already who've been working really hard. We have people who do this for a living. They're out working with other groups to make sure that we're able to do that. They feel really confident that we'll be able to raise the other 50% of the funds for this park to say that that's how much we believe in this, that we're willing to make sure that we're able to do that through other grants, large donations, individual donations, even plans to just get our kids involved to be able to come in. We have a really cool idea of hosting a day at the park where kids can bring their pennies to give to us to be able to say, you did it too. Look at that. You're also part of this community. You were able to come in, set your footprint in here for what we wanted to do, as well as other events, asking big asks, sponsorships from corporations, things like that too. I'm really thankful for the people that step forward for that because they are well-known people in our community for the things that they do, just here community-based, but also they're known in the larger community for nonprofit for having a really great history of being able to raise those funds. So we're really lucky that they believed in this project just as much, as well as us as a park board. Again, looking to try to see how do we want to be fiscally responsible for the money, because we know that there's funds that are set aside, but we all committed very early on that we didn't want to use and deplete all the funds for this one thing. We understand we're a park board, we're not a playground board. We just know that this is one of the biggest things that people really wanted us to focus on, which is why we've taken the time, put the thought process into it, and tried to really make sure that we were moving forward with our recommendation to you. And also knowing, there's a lot of questions around what does this mean? Why is this the person that we're recommending to you? Why is there not a big presentation from a bunch of people like maybe you had for the board out there. But it is, when you look at it, Play by Design is a company that is the only one right now that does everything that we're talking about. It is a community based from the beginning of the design through the last nail put in. And that means that even there's some other ones I know that people have brought up. There's some I believe in your packet that you saw. If you look at them, there's not a single one that does every single one of the things that Play by Design does. They don't do a community build. They have a full volunteer build where they come in and they allow the volunteers to do it. Now they have some places that are like, oh yeah, sure, if you have a volunteer that wants to come help, but they don't actually empower the volunteers to come in and do it themselves. There's a little bit of scare with that sometimes, but if you think about it a little bit like Habitat for Humanity, where they come in and they allow you to come and be the people who are putting together these walls. We're creating all of that with some oversight from people who know what they're doing. So they're able to do that. They take on all the liability for that, making sure that they are certified ASTM playground inspectors as well. So they are right there the entire time making sure that our build is done. But they also came in and helped us figure out what we need for certain things, talked through pricing lists, helped us figure out our community committees that we need to do, put recommendations and things like that forward as well. And there was not another company that we could find that I could even find when I'm looking through it that does all of those things that we're talking about across the board, that aren't just somebody who would say, here's a catalog of equipment, take that and put it on your space that you have. There's a lot of people that could do that. But a specific design that's going to reflect who Kechi is, who our community is going to be done by Play by Design as well. I think you have the numbers for where we were. So there's a few different things that we can do even now. So our recommendation with going to Play by Design includes 3 types of builds. One is a fully volunteer one, which is the one we would hope to do. And that one, right now, just for the playground equipment itself, with a full volunteer. So if we were able to get everyone together, which we're very confident that we'll be able to do, would be $227,390. That doesn't include the pour in place that we're looking at. So that's that recycled rubber material for the bottom piece of it. If we were to do what's considered a hybrid build, so that is where they would send in some more builders on their own, they'd bring in, and we would come up with volunteers for about half the amount of volunteers that we would have had to for a full build. That cost goes up about $88,500 for the playground, which brings it to $315,890. If we were to have them build the whole thing, let's say we're just going to get one person, who's willing to come out and bring a hammer and help us, they could build the entire thing for us. It would be $487,390, and that's for the full part and everything on there. The pour in place, so that's that recycled rubberized material to get that done and installed, is $166,559. And that would be no matter what the build is that we do, that would be the amount that we went through. Thomas did get a chance to kind of go through and the Public Works Department recommended what we wanted to do as well. And that is what why we applied for that grant, to put in that $40,000 to go towards that cost as well. I know that we also have a separate piece. One of the really big cool things in the design was that our kiddos wanted a zip line. And I will tell you, my kids love the one that we've been able to play on a few different playgrounds around here. Play by Design does not have a design for that piece. They didn't have a way of manufacturing that. They did recommend some places for us, so we did get a couple of different places that would be able to do that. We are looking at one right now, and just trying to give you an idea of the cost is right around $43,000 if we wanted to add it as a zip line. It would have to be separate, since Play by Design doesn't install those. They didn't want to put that forward if that's not something that they typically do. They want to make sure that the right person is getting that installed as well. But since that was such a huge thing, we wanted to try to make sure if we're able to do that, we can as well.
Want me to pick up here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, the total cost for the project, and Eva, I noticed your numbers vary from the numbers.
Yeah, sorry, I was putting it out from the other
So,
one.
the ones on my slide jive with the information that I have in the packet.
Oh, yeah.
So the total project is $565,000 and some change. That includes the playground equipment. What is figured into that is the additional $88,500 for the hybrid build. Through some of the discussion at the park board meetings, we know that right now, there's some trouble getting volunteers. So we don't know 100% that we can to get all the volunteers that we need, so that's why this hybrid is plugged in there, just as a variance. Now, Connor, who's gonna get up and speak here in just a little bit, and Neva have assured me that we will find the volunteers for this project, but when it comes to something like this, it's better to budget a little bit high and come in lower than budget too low and come in high. So that $565,000 includes that. The equipment portion is $310,000. Of course, the surface, the pour-in-place surface, $166,500 and some change. And like I said, we just were notified that we received $40,000 towards that pour-in-place. So that will reduce that cost significantly. The park board's request tonight is that the city council approve or allocate $310,200 from existing funds that we have. Currently, the city has resources that we've been setting aside over the last few years for the park board. As you will remember, in the last two budget cycles, we have designated 2 mills to go directly towards parks, that we pulled those from streets to go directly towards parks to plan for this park renovation that we had. So with those transfers, the money that the city had in coffers before, we have total resources of $464,499.99 in our budget funds. That is split between the park board and some reserves that were earmarked from transfers in our CIP fund. Like Neva said, they anticipate that they can, through fundraising and grants, come up with the additional $255,000, which is less than that now. It's actually $215,000 with the $40,000 that we're awarded today through grants and funding. We, of course, applied for this grant for the fall surface. We are also in the process of applying for a grant through the state of Kansas for the playground equipment. Not a guarantee, but we're putting our hat in the ring for additional funding. There are also, I'm sure, other grant opportunities that we can find out there that we will apply for as well. So the ask to move forward tonight is to approve the recommendation from the park board to the city council after they've done the research and due diligence, and approve the $310,200 from allocated funds to go towards the park equipment.
So just a couple of questions, and I hate to ask this, but 2 things. What if we don't get the volunteers? What we need?
Good question.
And what if we won't get the fundraising?
Yeah, good question. If we don't get the volunteers and they have to come in and install the equipment for us, it's going to cost an additional $260,000.
In addition to the 88?
Yes. Yeah.
And
Really.
here's what I will say to that though, with Play by Design, they have never had that happen. And all the ones that they've built, they've never one time had it where they couldn't get enough volunteers to complete a project. And the thing that I would say too, that you'll, like you said, you'll have, like Connor will come up, Connor's been helping on our fundraising committee. When we have met, we've really talked about that. We know that it's hard in Kechi to get volunteers. It just really is. Everybody has lives, right? We've got a lot going on. But we do know that it doesn't have to just be our own citizens here as well, to know that we have our community members who will support that. So we know of other corporations and companies that may not be able to give us monetary donations, but do have the ability to send in some of their staff for these larger pieces. I've had the chance through my leadership Wichita class that I've done to meet a few that have committed to say they would help us with that, as well as just some from the local military base that said they would be happy to gather some people together to help us too. So it's a huge thing. They know that what we're trying to do, and I think that once we have a really good thing, once we can say we've got the funds marked for it, we're ready to really push this, then I think that the city of Kechi and our community members will rally around that. I don't foresee that being a problem. I fully understand the question, and I think it's absolutely valid.
Todd, just for clarification, I understand the depth of your question after listening to what you asked it. With the $260,000, yes, the $88,000 would be pulled from that. The full bill is $260,000. The hybrid is $88,000.
Okay, that's
So
the way I thought.
It would be
The
the
additional.
difference between those two, correct, yeah.
And so just to elaborate on a little bit of what you're talking about, reaching beyond the community of Kechi to corporations, business for community service days, for professionals to come in and help with that. There's opportunities there. So the second part of Todd's question, are you gonna speak to the fundraising piece?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. We have somebody here who's gonna speak to the
Yeah.
fundraising.
So how many volunteer hours are we talking about for the hybrid build?
I'm gonna let, actually, Cassie knows that one, so I'm gonna let her. That's why Cassie, she's actually, the other, so to give you an idea too for the committees that they give us, they give a breakdown of different committees that we need to make this possible and successful. So one of the ones that they gave us was a fundraising committee, obviously a volunteer committee, but also to have project manager. And since both of us have very busy lives, Cassie and I volunteered to kind of have that. But she's been the main person who's been speaking play by design, so I'm gonna let her speak to that part.
So with the volunteer, the build is done over 6 days. It would start on a Monday and we would have to reveal on a Saturday afternoon. Monday through Friday, there would be 3 shifts of volunteers, and we would feed them and all of that.
How many?
We have people doing that, who would be coming up with people to get us free food donated, sorry. Anyway, so it would be 3 shifts a day. On the hybrid build, that would be 53 volunteers per shift on each day. Again, as Eva has said, Play by Design has been doing this for a very long time, and she said, and Lisa, who is our contact with them, has said that typically people come the first day, and once they've participated and done it and see how exciting it is and how much fun it is, they come back.
How long is the shift?
I don't know the answer to that.
It was 12-hour shifts.
No,
there's not.
it's 12 hours.
There's not 36 hours in a day, so that
I
would
think
be
there was. I
absolutely
think it was
possible.
4 hours.
The shifts will probably be about 4 hours because it is a 12-hour day. That is correct.
2 shifts.
3 shifts.
3 shifts.
Oh, it was originally 4 days. 2 shifts.
So 3 shifts per day, 4 hours per shift, for 6 days, 53 people
Per shift.
What is the volunteer number for a full volunteer?
For the full build, it is 85 volunteers per shift.
And if you go with the hybrid, are there additional costs for the additional employees that come from Play by Design?
So the additional 88,500, which is what Neva and Matt talked about, covers them sending, I believe, 12 additional staff members.
Does that include, because I saw in this one contract where it says does not include travel and lodging.
It does not.
So do we have an estimate on how much that would cost?
We do not have an estimate on how much that would cost because it'd be hard to estimate how much air travel would cost about 6 months from now. And we are hoping, as we did with the design day, to get some of the lodgings donated either by Airbnbs or hotels that are in Park City or in northern Wichita.
Okay, so, and you said 12 people?
12 additional. They will send
If
more
we
people.
don't get, it'd be 12 additional people.
Yeah, so I believe it was 16 people total with the hybrid build. Yes, so no matter what we do, they're sending staff.
So,
With the full volunteer build, they send 4 engineers who, as Neva said, are playground design builders. That's their job. They're engineers there to make sure that everything is done safely and correctly and guide us through the process. If we choose to do the hybrid build, they send 12 additional people to that in order to obviously assist in getting the project done still within that 6 days.
so the 12 was for the hybrid.
16 total staff for
16,
the hybrid,
being
yeah.
12 additional.
Yes.
Okay, and they're located in New York?
Yes.
Eva, you mentioned Augusta, the Castle Park. Did they also do one in Andover, or is Augusta the only one in the area?
Did I say again? I apologize. I meant Andover. I apologize. Augusta used to have.
No,
I think,
it's Augusta.
is it? Oh no, it is the north part of Augusta. Yeah.
Augusta Castle Park.
Augusta Castle Park, the Island Park in Linfield, was created by them. And actually, I'm from our city, and they had built the original park that was there, that was vandalized and burned down, and they came back and rebuilt that park with them and did a lot of it for no cost, because of what happened. Because they have a full guarantee for that, to say, look, if something happens or breaks, we'll help you fix it, all of that as well, to make sure that we're getting it done well.
familiar with the area.
Yes, absolutely. And then there's some other parks in Kansas that they've done as well, even some really small parks. There used to be one in Strong City that they created. There was a couple in Western Kansas that they had done as well.
So in your opinion, when you say, you know, you wanted something that was unique and not catalog, so this is, what is gonna make this different than some of the others? What are some of the unique features that you would say make this Kechi?
Well, I think the main thing was the community ability to create the design. So if we were to put out, say, an RFP, right, we would have to have an idea of exactly what we wanted prior to say, go ahead, say it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I would say that an RFP, because it, in my estimate, it's a request for proposal.
Sure.
Saying it doesn't mean that we have to say this is what our design would be.
How would they let us know? How would we have an exact same bid all three across if they weren't all the same?
What I would think we would say are, these are some of the features that we're looking for. So when you were saying, that you wanted something that they could do all of this. So when you went out for bids, you could say, we are looking for somebody who can do the fundraising, somebody who can make sure that our playground is unique to us.
Mm-hmm.
So we could have set those qualifications out in the request for proposal.
Sure.
We don't have to say, we want 2 slides, we want this, we want that. We could have simply said, we have this space that we are wanting to do something with, and these are some of the criteria that we're looking for. So that some of the other companies that were presented in our packet that said they do a community build, how does their community build compare to this one? How much does it cost compared to this one? So
Sure.
I'm gonna say that an RFP, because it's a request for proposal, it really is saying, what do you propose that we could do within these parameters?
Sure.
And so that's where I feel, as somebody who has put forth some and saying, hey, what could we do? Could we have gotten some of the other companies that maybe, because I'm looking at this and I'll be honest, the unknowns, not knowing how much is it gonna cost additionally for the travel. Because when you talk about, I mean, and I know that we can hopefully get some of it donated.
I think there's going to be unknowns no matter what you do. So
Oh,
even
I
if you did an RFP,
but
let's say we do an
right.
RFP today and we don't get it done until September. We know how tariffs work. We know how costs rise for all kinds of things. It could be $150,000 more by September. So there's no guarantee for that cost, which is kind of why we were saying for the air part of it. Here's what I would say, when we're speaking about that in particular though, is that play by design. Why we're saying that they aren't like anybody else, to your question for that, is that there is not another company that does every single one of the things that they do. Right? And
I
so,
don't know that.
I'm sorry?
When I see some of the other companies, that's I guess why we often have the 3 bid proposals.
Sure.
So we can see, hey, are we comparing apples to apples?
Mhm.
And that's where I know that you guys saw 3 bids, and I would have appreciated being able to see the 3 bids, so I could.
And you absolutely still can. Again, this is just our recommendation to you for what we're recommending that you go with. And here's what I'm saying as far
Can I
as.
interject just for a
Yeah, go
second
ahead.
before we get too far off topic? In your packet are 3 bids from
No.
from vendors that they talked to. From
So
They
those
are
from
not who they talked to.
give me just
Okay.
a second here. Recreation installations. I gave you guys a bid for $379,000.
That's not in the packet.
They-
It's not in the packet.
Well, let me get you a copy of it then. It should be.
It looks like.
There's 2 bids from 2024, which was before the park
They
board was
have-
formed.
We have Avco
that was-
for $425,000.
That wasn't a company that the park board looked at.
Avco was. Yeah.
I know,
Um,
and recreation installation
It
is
was
looks like
earthworks
this.
and
we have-
recreation
and we-
installation and play by design.
We also have couch recreation for,
Originally we had 6 or 7,
yeah, you guys,
because you did 2 plus the one that we already had that had submitted a bid that we asked them to
I
update.
would say
So
yeah, so the final pricing that we have is actually lower than all of these bids. But I think what that shows is consistency I mean, the product, it's not out of whack with.
So the two that we have in our packet are from 2024. We don't have anything.
That's prior to the park board being
Prior
formed.
to the park board. These aren't ones that the park board got.
They
So,
were formed in February 2025.
and if we were supposed to.
These were original ones that the park board used, that we got when we did our original bids. And you guys went and talked to those
So
companies.
these are not the ones that the current park board received. So these two, these weren't.
Yeah, you guys talked to Crouch Recreation.
But this is,
Yes.
but this quote's from 2024.
That's not a current bid at all.
But it shows consistency in the pricing.
So,
No.
No, it
It was
doesn't.
2 years ago. That wouldn't be current pricing.
Well, we need to have an update.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, if anything, it's gonna be higher than it was in this estimation.
But it wasn't the bids that the park board was actually considering, because that was
It wasn't?
earthworks.
Because we gone these and
installation.
had access to all of them.
I think it's
In our
beside the
meeting.
point because we're not talking about.
No, well, this is a video,
We're talking
so-
about play-by-play.
I respect that. And I guess that's where my comment goes back to. So when the park board reached out for the 3 bids that they did, and like I said, these 2 weren't part of the park board. These weren't 2 that you guys as a park board looked at.
We did
We did.
speak to Craft Recreation and get an updated estimate from them.
Okay, so, but we don't have that one. So the only bid that we have that you guys sent out for was the play-by design. So my question would then also be, and, was the information presented to the other companies asking for the same thing?
So here's what I would say that maybe will negate that. This decision was not based off of price.
Okay.
We didn't look at it and say this was the least expensive for the most things that we were getting. So price wasn't that discussion. If you go back and look, you look at it, from the meeting when we all 6 voted, 6-0 to move forward with saying play by design, so we wanted to focus on what our consensus was because of the type of build that they were creating, the full volunteer piece of it, the full construction piece being all volunteer, it all being community-based, community-driven from the very beginning to the end, and it being unique to us, not being something we just looked at a catalog and said, you can pull that out, which is what the majority of these pieces do. There were a couple others that we saw that Conley presented, that were a similar kind of build, but they did not offer the volunteer basis, ability for a full volunteer build for the community to be involved. Yeah, and it was 10 times the amount of this, right? So when we were looking at it, it wasn't about the pricing. I also understand that a purchasing, the reason for us having those things is to make sure that there's not any corruption, there's not any issues, we're not giving somebody a favor, we're not supposed to be, or that we're not being fiscally responsible. Can we agree that that's the heart of what that is for? And if we can, then understanding that we aren't asking for you all to do the full amount. We're asking within what all of these, even these quotes that you're seeing from 2 years ago, the money that we're asking from you is in that range as well. And we are committing to getting the other half ourselves. That's how much we believe in what the difference in this park is from any quote we could get from a catalog company.
So you're saying that none of the equipment was picked out of a catalog to be part of the design by Play by Design?
I did not say that. I said a catalog company. So typically, when you look at these, they say we have this play equipment and this is what it sets out and does, right? Are you able to modify that where it looks completely different and unique from anywhere else that might have grabbed that and installed it? Not typically, right? We've seen lots of parks that look the exact same. I love Bel Air's new park that they're putting in, but I've seen that exact same formation and at a few other places as well. What we're saying is that they are unique in how they came into the committee. I'm sorry, was there a comment? I couldn't quite hear you. Okay, just make sure I didn't miss something. Wanting to make sure that, it is, again, something that involves the whole community here, right, from the design process. So those companies don't come in and sit down in the school and take in those designs. They don't bring in the community and have you submit drawings and use that to create the design. They don't offer a full volunteer build where the community gets to come in and actually be the ones who are putting that together. They aren't offering the ability to sit with us step by step through all of the, helping us form all of the committees, helping us understand how we do the grants, going through all of that. A lot of them would give us here's a bunch of grants that maybe you could apply for, but they're not offering all of that as well. And when we've spoken with, even like with Augusta and them, that was something that even they had said, this was a completely different type of park than we've ever seen. This is what we want. So if we're saying that that's the whole reason why we're picking it, it wasn't about cost and it wasn't about money. And I can understand that being your concern, right? I do. But us saying that we are not asking you for more than what everybody else is saying is the amount we are committing to do the other part is where I feel like that concern gets taken away.
So, I guess I'm gonna think about mine.
So I do have a question. So before they went out to look for their playground equipment companies to consider, was the community build and the community design established before all the park board members went out to seek out companies to work with?
No, when they all came back, so we had three different members of the park board speak to different vendors that tell them, this is what we're looking for, give me an idea what cost is, give me an idea of a rough design, and they all came back with something that had a cost associated with it, a rough design. We spoke through all of them at length in a meeting. And then when we were presented with the possibility of play by design and all that it entailed with the community basis, it was overwhelming in that conversation that was unique and something that we really wanted to have happen. And that ability to make it different because of that was what won that out for us. Because the very opposite one was a catalog style company that was local in Kansas. And if they had offered the same exact ability for us to do this with the community the way that Play by Design is, we could have potentially gone that direction. But what won it over was the ability to include the community with something they're already so passionate about. 70%, again, going back to that survey, wanted us to be this redone and have it be artistic and be a venue and be a statement piece. That's what we're looking for.
So did you decide on a theme for the playground?
What do you mean?
That was part of it, was choosing Play by Design, was to pick a theme to go with.
Not a theme of design, so a community-based design, which is what they did when they did the presentation.
So it wasn't, because I remember discussion about having a theme to go forward in guiding that design.
I mean, if we wanted the community to do the basis, I don't know that we'd be able to have a theme because we just said, design what you think would be great. We'll incorporate as much as we can within all of this with everybody's design. So I know the one thing we want to talk about theme, we did say we would like to highlight the Kechi colors. We'd like to have the turtle in there, some other statement pieces for what we're known for, to be able to have that built into it as well.
I'm curious if we could hear more about the fundraising aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I just?
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Sure.
Do your part of it? Yeah. You.
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you for your service to our city. I know most of you, and I enjoy every part of that. I understand that you have to make decisions that impact people's lives every single day, and I get that, and you have to determine whether, for lack of a better term, if the juice is worth the squeeze, right? So I'll address you and everybody here in three different ways, I guess, in three different hats that I wear. So I'm a parent. I have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old who do play at the park all the time. I will say that, just like we talked about, my 3-year-old struggles to play on this park. She's smaller than our 7-year-old. Our 7-year-old has a good time. So again, I would just echo Matt's comments, and I know that we all want this park to happen, and we all want a great park for every kid, no matter their ability, no matter their age, they can play together. Because as of right now, my 3-year-old and 7-year-old cannot play together. So as a parent, I think what term I'd like to use is more urgency rather than anything else. There's, again, a lot of decisions you have to make. And time runs quickly. As everyone knows with kids, pretty soon my 7-year-old's going to be 10 and my 3-year-old's going to be 6. And then all of a sudden, we're going to have to find a different park, right? So again, I would just express the urgency part from being a parent. as the fundraiser, most of you don't know this, and I don't know what most of everybody does in this room in terms of what they do day to day, 8 to 5. But I'm a fundraising consultant. I work with 3 organizations in Wichita. One organization, we've raised $4.5 million yearly. A couple other organizations are smaller, so they do about this number of about $450,000 to $500,000 a year in terms of overall fundraising. So I am a speaker. I speak across the nation about fundraising. I've been asked to come to the Association of Fundraising Professional Global Conference, and I will speak at that in 2026. So that's just a little bit of background on me. When I come from the fundraiser side, I think it's more about commitment. Talked as a parent, more of urgency. This is a fundraiser, more of commitment. And when we make these large asks, when we make these huge major gift asks, which a lot of these will be, right? You're 25,000, 10,000, anywhere in there, you want to see commitment from everybody in terms of the city council, in terms of everybody on the park board, in terms of everybody here, right? So when we talk about fundraising, we talk about commitment. And I think everybody understands it. We've talked about it before, the impact of just this meeting alone, what that does to people's thoughts in their mind about whether this park is going to happen, what that looks like. I completely understand your questions, and you have to ask those. However, I would caution the lack of hope or lack of commitment to this project in terms of the fundraising, because these are large amounts. I understand that. But in the grand scheme of things, when you talk about large capital campaigns, this would be considered a small capital campaign. And I understand that maybe in this room that is a very, very large number, but there are organizations that I work with and also know, and some that I don't, that are raising multi-million dollar projects on a yearly basis. So again, when I see these numbers, I actually have a lot of hope. And that's what I want to see throughout here after these meetings get through and after we get through all the heat that's elevated, right, in the room. I think that's what we have to remember is we need to move forward with 100% commitment that this is going to happen. And then just in terms of a citizen, right, I think I touched on a couple words, urgency, commitment, and then just momentum. I'd like to see an all-in approach. You've empowered the park board to do this. You've empowered us. They've got my family completely involved in wanting to create this amazing park. So I would like to capitalize on that momentum when we go forward in fundraising because of the people that we have a part of this group now and all the things that we do. And again, I know we have a great community and there is a lot of wealth here and in Wichita. So I will give you that. I know it doesn't feel like it sometimes, and I know that times are hard, especially in times of, hey, we're not sure how much things are going to cost, but there is wealth here. And so I'd like to capitalize on momentum, and I'd like to continue to look for ways that we can collaborate. Because like I said, when we make these larger asks, the first question that people ask is, well, what's the city's involvement? And that's the question today. And then it goes, well, who else is involved? There are so many people that live in Kechi that work in Wichita, work at different places that we can go to that their organizations would like to give to. So I think Neva touched on it, and it's a portfolio-based fundraising. Portfolio-based fundraising is all levels of fundraising. So you have your major gifts, you have your grants, your foundations, your corporate gifts, and then your events, right? So the majority of your money, which this anticipated fundraising, $255,000, 60% of that will be individual gifts. That's how most capital campaigns are done, and that's how a lot of it is given. Now, because we are a city and because there is great oversight, we can get larger grants that would allow us to do some things, and I know that we've just had success with one already. So again, when you talk about the averages, right, or the percentages, 60% of that is coming from individuals, which we will make individual asks, and I will tell you the ask that I've made so far, there has been a question whether this park is going to be made, or whether this park is going to happen, because of certain questions, certain comments, certain impact that has happened. And so I wanted to wait to make those larger asks and larger commitments until we know exactly what the city's going to give, or what this, where is it the city, where the funding's coming from? Excuse me, maybe the city. Please don't pick apart my words as I describe this. It's more trying to get my point across. You're going to have to get 60% as individuals, about 20 some from foundations, 20 some from corporate, and then your other will be your grants, and then a very small portion will be 5% of events. Events just really don't drive. Even though I'd love to get one more penny in there so we could say 464,500, I'm happy to throw my penny in the ring for that. So again, we can go into numbers and break down percentages and all those things. I just think from a fundraiser who's done this in different places, those are the things that we need. We need urgency, we need commitment, and then we need to build on this momentum. And that momentum is done by the people that we have and the citizens that we have in Kechi that believe in this. And I'll be the first to tell you, I won't be. Well, yeah. I guess you're the first ones to know. But my wife and I are going to make a substantial gift to this park, and because we believe in it. So I'm not only speaking as a fundraiser, I'm speaking as a donor, as a father, and then as a citizen. So, and I think the last thing I'll say, and I'm happy to answer your questions. So I'm sure there'll be multiple. But when we talk about, is the juice worth the squeeze? I think it is on this one. So, any questions?
I just was doing that. So you said the breakdown of the percentages. You said 60%.
I'll send you an accurate report.
Because I thought you said 60% from gifts, 20% foundations, 20% corporations, and then 5%. And I was like, oh well. What
and you're missing foundations in there, which is probably your other 15% is what I'm lacking.
Okay, no, I just.
No, thank you.
We're going to get 105%. I kind of like that idea.
Yeah. And that's again, that's the goal. And I think that's one of the bigger issues when we talk about fundraising. We weren't sure what was going to come out of this total resources. So then it's kind of like, hey, would you like to give a $10,000 gift? Well, what's the target we're aiming at, right? So,
Connor, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Hi, Matt.
I have a question for you. So, understanding fundraising, having done some of myself, even though you haven't had the numbers and you haven't had a commitment from what the city was in for, which I really applaud the fact that, for a better lack of terms, the community has skin in the game by the fact that they're helping fund this. I'm sure you probably had some conversations that you've already kind of laid the groundwork with. What's the enthusiasm that you're getting from those conversations? Or have you had those conversations? What type of enthusiasm are you getting for this? You mentioned momentum earlier.
In terms of those conversations, we've had multiple sponsorship opportunities. In terms of when you look at the packet that Play by Design did an excellent job of, they mark things at a certain amount. So the monkey bars were $1,800. Don't quote me on that amount. 1,800, 1,200, whatever the ask was that I pushed out. People are very excited. They're like, yes, I would love to be a part of this park and say that I provided monkey bars for my daughter to play at on Kechi, right? My wife and I are excited about that. I think, there's different sponsorships within that. So you have slides and bridges and turtles and things that are Kechi based, right? So that has been a lot of the excitement. And other, when I talk to corporate people, right? Corporate sponsors, corporate people that are going to give, ADA has been very, very, it's been the thing that's got them excited, right? Even your nonprofits like Envision will give to a project like this as long as there's some ADA, or they will give to the ADA appointed components, yes, structures. So that's been really exciting, and really just these individual asks that are going out. They're just like, yeah, just would like to know more about what the city's going to do. So those are the more exciting things of people wanting to sponsor a certain aspect of the park.
I have a question. Do you have a deadline for when you want the funds raised by, prior to the build? What does that look like with fundraising?
Yeah, essentially, you would at least like to have the money in the bank, or that it was proposed, or it was committed. Thank you. Pledge.
Yes.
Even better. Or that it's pledged, knowing that with the build about to start to happen, you're at least 90% towards your goal. That's kind of what people want, because then once people see the build, they're gonna want to be involved. You can pull in 10% of that, so 25,000 just off of the momentum of having volunteers and having people see what's going on. And I know I didn't touch on the volunteer part, but I've talked to multiple corporate organizations that would like to know the hours and know when it is, because multiple corporate people get paid for volunteer hours. And again, that's a very small piece. I live in a world of opportunity, and so I respect the questions and the oversight of what happens if I don't live in that. Because I've made these asks, because I've gone out and done this. Once people see it, they feel it, they believe it, they'll give. And I believe in it. I have all the faith in the world that we can do this. From a volunteer standpoint, that is no concern to me. I understand where you're saying on the money, but I know we can get people here. Wichita people, Kansas people, Kechi people believe in helping others, and I know that we can get volunteers. From a fundraising standpoint, I know we can do it. Any other questions?
Any questions for Connor?
Well, thank you. And like I said, I'm a parent. This is so exciting. I appreciate all the oversight and all the passion in the room. Honestly, I love it. But I know that this is such an exciting project and something that's going to be so much fun for so many kids, whether you're in Kechi or not. It's going to bring people here, and people are going to believe in it. And that is the thing that needs to stick in our minds. And I know it does, but just know that you're going to help a lot of people and a lot of kids and a lot of parents bring a lot of joy. So thank you all again. The amount of service that goes unnoticed is noticed by me. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
I do want to thank Connor. Connor and his wife are just a couple of the many great residents that we have, that when we do something like this, we can pull those resources. Like he said, he does this professionally. He's volunteering his services to help this community on this build, and that's huge. So Connor, thank you. you and your wife would do.
Thank you. Council, before we go into discussion, I am going to open this item up for public comment. So Debbie?
Cheryl Hobson.
Cheryl Hobson. Please come to the podium and say your name and address, and you'll have about 5 minutes to address your comments. Thank you.
Yeah, Cheryl Hobson, 622 North Shawnee Circle. And I am a member of the park board. And so if you were there at the I guess the party that we had the Playbar design there, and so they had, we had planned there and all that with the kids and everybody. I mean, it is a fantastic design. I mean, there is no kid that is not going to love this, right? It's got, all sorts of things. I mean, just every kid's gonna love it. I mean, adults, everybody. The zip line is gonna be extra, but it's very nice, very, very nice. The issues, and I will say that we did have a couple of votes on the park board. The first vote, I did vote for this. And because I thought that, yes, it is unique, it's great, yeah, looks great. But then the second vote, no, I did not vote for it. And the reason why that I did not vote for it is mainly the cost, and also because of the plan. The plan to me was not when we decided to go out for bids. We were just going out for designs. And we wanted to be unique. We wanted to be Kechi. We wanted to be the colors, the turtles. And so that's what we did. And yeah, there was one that I really liked that was really out there and lots of money, and of course, you couldn't do that. But this one was great. But you can't do that and then totally change your ask afterwards. And it became very, very confusing after the first vote. There's the single source, sole source became an issue. The other things became an issue afterwards, and it became very, very confusing. We didn't know the cost. We didn't know. There's a lot of items that we didn't know about these plans. And so the further we got involved with these plans, the more things came out. And the issue is that I'm glad that we've got enthusiasm, but we don't have necessarily the money. we don't have shade for parents, grandparents. There's no shade in this plan, as you can see. There's other things that we don't have money for other things that we need to, as a park board, take care of. If we want to do other things like pickleball, or we want to do other things, there's no money for. I mean, we're spending it all on the equipment. That's pretty much it. So, that's really not, the price is pretty high. If we don't get the grants, if we don't get the fundraising, if we don't get the volunteers, right? Volunteers have to be fed, volunteers have to be, have to have water, volunteers have to be flown in, volunteers have to stay somewhere, or not volunteers, but the people from the company. We have to have porta potties, we've got to consider all these costs. Okay, so I'd like for you to consider that. I'd also like for maybe you consider, and no one said anything about this, maybe we need to look at a phased approach. Okay? Maybe we took a bigger bite than what we should. Maybe we could do most of it this year. Maybe do a little bit next year. Maybe not do so much this year. Maybe there's some other options. We haven't looked at that. Okay? So maybe there's something else we could do as well that would fit our budget. Okay? I'm just thinking about taxpayers.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your comments. Debbie? Sarah McMillan. Sarah McMillan? Hi. Welcome.
Thank you. Sarah McMillan, 2312 East Quivira. I wasn't sure if I was going to speak tonight. I kind of wrote out a bunch of stuff and then I threw it away and then I came and I didn't bring anything, so I'm just going to wing it. So I am blown away by the effort and time that the park board has put into it and the depth of thought and passion and different perspectives. Because I think that's one of the things I read, Joni, that Ms. Mary, you said before a few years ago. You wanted a park board that had diverse thinking and consider from different aspects. And I really do believe that this park board has done it. You have every ages all the way down to my son who not married, not dating, not looking, and sorry, but with each of those perspectives, and it's been really fascinating to even watch him go through it. Because with his educational background, which was in public policy and international relations, knowing the impact that every decision makes, not just now, but for the future and how it impacts everything. So everything I know that he took on, even as someone who's not going in it thinking about what is his children or grandchildren or things like that, he took every consideration to heart and would sit at home with all the papers and looking. So it wasn't something that he just attended and went back. So I really do know that everybody is working extremely hard on this. As far as like fundraising, I come from like a no fundraising background and was thrown into running a very small private school where most of our kids were scholarship kids. So we did not have a lot of money. We would have to raise that in a year, and we did every single year, and we continue to grow with that. So for me, I think it's important to know that whether it's like some large donations and backings to even just small things, it's very, very possible. The biggest thing is it has to have support. And I think for me, one of the hardest things to watch, honestly, was last meeting. Mayor Harris, when you were there, and you came in and you had stated, first of all, that the public didn't have an opinion. They weren't able to give an opinion. To which Nita asked, well, you're here, aren't you? Aren't you a citizen? And you said, no, I'm the mayor. And so it really felt like you were going in there as your position, and then you argued for 20 minutes. And as they're explaining, and just being able to hear that as they were describing what they were going to present to the council, because like I said, they're an advisory board, council gets to make the decision. But it was very apparent that you wanted them to change, and I know not everybody was on the same page, but wanted them to change to what you wanted them to say before they presented it to the council. The other thing that really stood out to me was on the Facebook posts where at one point when you were asking very valid questions and it was going back and forth on discussion when it was presenting for the community outreach and stuff like that. And at one point you were asked, like, do you want to volunteer? Maybe you could help out. And you stated, I do not know enough about it to volunteer. But everybody knew you were at the meetings. Like, you were at almost every single meeting. You knew everything that was going on. So it was a very clear message to the town that you don't support it. And to me, that as a citizen, that was very disheartening. And to see that continue now as you've gone and you're mayor, that it continues, it's very likely that it would have a lot of difficulty if you continue writing negative posts. And I fully support the park being built as it is. It definitely needs upgrades. It is a liability issue. It will cost the town a whole lot more if someone gets hurt. But I really appreciate the time and opportunity. Next time I'll try to have something a little more polished, but I just wanted to share what was on my heart.
Thank you, Sarah. Debbie. Welcome, Debbie.
Debbie Hart, 531 Prairie Creek Drive, Kechi. I want to state that I am supportive of getting a new park. That is not a question that we need it. I don't necessarily feel comfortable with the way it's gone about because we're supposed to have 3 bids. We don't have 3 bids that are comparative to what is being proposed. And every time anybody on the park board would bring that up, we would get pushback from that saying it's not necessary. We don't have to do that because this is a sole source bid. But if we're supposed to have 3 bids, we're supposed to have 3 bids. And I just think that is important as representatives of the community, that we are very transparent, that we did our due diligence. I love the design by Play by Design. I think it's spectacular. I have a 1-year-old grandson. He's going to grow up playing at that park. But as a taxpayer, I think that we need to be sensitive to the taxpayers, that we have done our due diligence, that we have, I just don't believe that there's not another business that can build a park like that. And I don't think that we have turned over every rock to satisfy that. Yes, it may not have hybrids or full builds or, the different components of it. I'm concerned about hearing that we might need to fly in 16 people and house them and feed them for a week. That's not even included in any of that. And that's very concerning to me. I want a park that is approved the right way, following the procedures and guidelines that have been set out for us to follow. And I really struggle with the whole 3 bid thing not being, yes, we did get 3 bids, but they're not comparative. They're completely different types of designs. And so it's not comparing apples to apples. So that is one of my I just think it's important for us to be transparent to the community and not having 3 competitive bids for the same type of design. I don't think that's being very transparent. I think it's us just ignoring our responsibilities. I have a concern about the price tag. This gentleman had me believing that we can do it, but there is a what if. What if we can't do it? Then we're in a pickle. And I think that that's something that we need to take into consideration. The what if? Because where is the money going to come from? It's going to come from the taxpayers. And when you have your budget set, you just can't pull a little from here and a little from here, because that's not how you budget. And I just think that we really need to be considerate of that, and and then to add another $40,000 on for the zip line. I just think that those are things that we really need to be concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Debbie, do you have anyone else? Kristen, welcome. We're gonna pause for just 1 second. While we have a quick question break. Kristen,
Sorry, we've been sitting here for over 2 hours.
Yeah, go ahead.
And do we need to make a motion?
Oh.
You need to just pause.
Okay.
Unless someone else wants to run. Okay. How about we have a motion for just a 5-minute quick break in case council members need to
You
run.
read that in my face.
I did. Okay. Someone else?
Second.
Okay. Motion by Councilmember Moreland, second by Councilmember Baldridge. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We will be back at 9:11.
Wow.
That's not a good time.
Okay.
shopping anymore because it was just so hard.
Yeah, I used to take her shopping and it, oh my gosh, well, she can't see. So she went hunt, and I have to help her find what she was like.
Just let me do it.
And so
Okay, we
it's just
will
much
call the
faster.
meeting back to order. So Kristen? Well done. Hello.
Kristen Schwab, I live at 331 West Tomahawk. I am also on the park board. I am a small business owner. Something that I really believe in is honesty, transparency, and also respect. And I can't agree that there was a respectfully made decision to go forward with what was presented. I was one of the people that got a bid, and it was a bid for replacing the current structure. I followed through with that and got that, and all that was exactly what it was, a price to replace that structure, including the port and play, including and this is also a company that's only 2.5 hours away in Kansas, and they customize everything. Actually, everything could be completely customized. That was when I brought that up, when they said that they really liked the way that Play by Design is set up. And I said, okay, well, since we have that in place, can I take that back to Recreation Installations and, see what they can do around that? Nope, it's incomparable. It's a sole source. And so for the next 4 months, it went, I was shut down for 4 months. I think it was August or September. They're all recorded. I think it would be awesome if, like, this summer we could watch all the park board meetings over. I think it'd be great movie nights. The disrespect, I actually have a quote here. Excuse me. It says, I want to be clear that it is never acceptable for anyone to speak to a board member disrespectfully. Neva Benton. And I feel like our mayor was very disrespected, and I don't feel like you argued anything. I feel like you really believe in our community, and if people want to be biased, that's totally fine, but what matters is something that's going to be good for Kechi and represent our community. Having components that are straight out of the catalog that can easily be regraded, simulated, and the company actually did that and was able to do that for about $250,000 less. And again, they're local. And I love that the community got brought together, but I also didn't see any of those implemented in the design because the design was already made when they got here. And maybe some people aren't familiar with multi-level marketing, but it's all with a really, really solid storybook pitch, that it really, really grabs you at your heartstrings and everything can come together. And I love optimism, but there is a line between that and delusion. And I just really hope that it can be thoroughly thought through, and I would love to have an opportunity for you to see the designs from the bid that I have. Conley also had an incredible design company that was shut down too, and the whole point is that we could have chosen different components, because that's what they are, and that's what's ordered from anywhere. And we could have made something really custom, thrown a little Gino's barbecue, for kids. Like, it could have been things that actually represent Kechi, not something that I reverse searched in Google and found 400,000 others. So I really want you guys to consider practicality, implementing real parts, who it serves, what's best for us as a community, what's going to be most rational to happen. And I love destination parks. Actually, I don't, but I know people do. And just send, check them out. But I think that we should really focus on our community, not trying to, it's not the gathering place. We're not Oklahoma City. It's this is something that should be custom and actually fits with our community. So, with that being said, thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Ready?
Connor Hampton.
I think you said that piece. I think I've said enough.
Okay.
Can I mention one more thing?
Sure.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I feel like if Lydia and Connor would have been included on the whole park board discussion, they would have seen that it was not a set in stone anything. And I actually have the vote, because I took the minutes that night, and they weren't provided, the accurate minutes weren't provided, but I do have them.
Thank you, Kristen. Ready? Karen Wiederstein. Karen Wiederstein. Welcome, Karen.
Good evening, Council. Karen Wiederstein, 601 Prairie Creek Drive. It's good to see you all again. I was on the park board as the ex officio minute taker, and I was very pleased and enjoyed my time serving that with that board. It was a good time. It was a lot of hard work. The board did a lot of hard work. They met extra times. So it was not taken lightly. It was a lot of effort put in by multiple members to bring forward ideas, and I'll appreciate it. I do feel like they did due diligence and did look at multiple quotes. They are a little bit aged, I agree. However, we all know nothing has gotten cheaper, it's only gotten more expensive. So in that respect, I think many of the quotes are quite in line with what you see with Play by Design. And Play by Design, I feel like brings a lot more to the table than any of the quotes. I had the opportunity to go to the school with Play by Design, and I had a great time. And they were quite engaging, great. A lot of effort put into the design, working with the kids, working with the community. I think they really felt the spirit of Kechi. Other cities nearby have not only utilized Play by Design, but have brought them back more than once to do work for them. I think that speaks highly of Play by Design. As you can see, I am in favor of this particular vendor. I was very impressed with them. They were very responsive, very helpful, very kind, very engaging. Something I don't think we can get from a catalog. Something I don't think we can get from other vendors. Now, if that's what you choose to do, that is certainly up to you. You have the power here to do what you think is right for Kechi. What is best for Kechi? Is it best to get more quotes and continue down that road? Or is it best to engage with a company I feel is quite, would be quite beneficial to Kechi? One of the things that was very lightly touched on by the park board and by Matt is the warranty behind the equipment itself is exceptional. Having read the material, having looked at it, it is far exceeds any other company that was out there. Would replace anything for any reason. You don't get that anywhere else. I didn't see that in any other of the products, any of the companies, but I was greatly impressed by that. Now, one last thing I want to say is don't delay any longer. The equipment needs to be replaced. So, I ask for you to move forward with Play by Design. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Debbie?
Yes.
Conley, go ahead. Welcome, Conley.
Hi, I didn't plan on speaking. Didn't even write my name, somebody else did.
I'm sorry, Connie, they told me you were running late and wanted to speak, so
Okay.
you don't have to. And when I went out there, we were out of
Just a
papers,
little
so
bit.
if you don't want to, that's
I'll
fine.
just go very quickly. 137 East Kechi Road is where I live. I would also love to move forward with this. It's been a long 1 year of the park board, and I feel like for the majority of our meetings, we've actually mostly been on the same page. There's people who've been disappointed because our parks didn't get chosen when we sought out our bids. Mine being like, the super expensive one. And Kristen's was, her.
You've missed quite a few of them though, Conley, so.
Yeah, as have you, actually.
Yeah,
Thanks for pointing that out.
Hey guys, let's maintain decorum in this.
Yep, please.
Yeah.
Let Conley speak.
So like everybody did have some invested, and I get that. But when we decided to all move forward with Play by Design, there were good reasons for that, even though some of us felt like we were missing out. And I know that you put a lot of time into talking with your representative for your park, and she was also very invested, which I appreciate.
Just following rules.
What?
Just following rules.
Right. I think the main issue that we're having is people are feeling anxiety about feeling like they're not doing something above board because of the 3-bid issue. So I feel like if we could just move past that, if it is an issue or if it's not an issue, that would clear a lot of things up and we could move forward because it's already been a long year. It'll probably be 3 more years before we get a real park started if we have to keep going out for all these bids and keep going back and forth. I would like to not have to do that. So. Yeah, I don't necessarily want to be on the park board for 10 years. I think this is a great company. They've showed a lot of, they're just as invested in us as we have been with them. So I don't think we could find a better company to do the project. I have faith in it. I would love to see it move forward and not get delayed.
Thank you, Conley. Is there anyone else? Okay, I just want to, one last call to, is there anyone else who wants to speak on this? Okay. I just want to say a couple things before I open this up to council for discussion. Whoops, sorry. It's late. So it was said that no other company offered community builds, but I did offer in the packet. There are a number of companies out there that do community builds. I'm not trying to sway you one way or another. I'm just stating the information that there are other companies that do community builds. I am a policy and procedure person. It's not what I want or how I want it done. I'm just trying to follow the rules. And according to our purchasing policy for the city of Kechi, it states purchases greater than $15,000. All purchases of capital assets shall require the formal bidding process set forth in this policy. And as defined by the city of Kechi, a capital asset means a purchased asset of $15,000 or greater with a useful life of 3 or more years. And that formal process is to require 3 bids. Now, I've heard the reasons why. They're stating that they didn't put forward an RFP. However, I've read the RFP for the next agenda item, and I don't feel like it's a constraining RFP. It just gives information what the city is looking for. In addition, as a sole source provider, it was also stated that Play by Design could not supply the zip line. They are not the company who is supplying the pour-in-place. Shade was a big deal that was supposed to be addressed, and that hasn't been addressed. And I do have concerns with the pour-in-place, because it was talked about that they could add shade later. What happens with the pour-in-place if you're cutting into it to put in new structures to add shade? It's just a question that I have that I haven't heard an answer for. And so I would like to have just seen the 3 bids, the 3 to have been able to build their bids out and to present those to the council to make a final decision. I am fully in support of a new playground, 100%. My concern has been for communication, accountability, and transparency for the community to understand what's going on, and for it to have followed policy, and that the council would have been presented 3 bids by the park board members that had all contacted companies. So I won't say any more than that, and I will open it up for discussion to council now.
I have a question on the pour-in-place grant. I'm glad we got, is that tied to the company that we have the bid from? Okay, are we gonna, because I noticed that, was there bids for that as well, or was that the?
There were other bids, yeah.
So-
At that meeting, if I remember correctly, the board had the discussion that was their preferred vendor based off the estimates they had or the quotes that they had for that. Before we applied for a grant, we had to have a price to give them. Okay, if we don't end up using this vendor, we're, like you said, we're not tied to
Okay,
this
that's
vendor.
what my question was.
Yeah.
Sometimes
We had
I
to
know
have a
that
price. to apply
sometimes
for.
grants can be tied to a company and sometimes they can't. So, before that one actually comes in, will we see those 3 bids as well, or are we just going with this one?
We can get 3
Oh.
bids, I guess that's a council decision. Yeah. They got 3 bids, this was
For the
actually.
pour-in-play?
Yeah.
They
Because
had
it's a-
multiple
It was
bids.
actually
They
one
had
bid that
multiple
they
bids
selected.
for the pour-in-place.
Yeah.
You had like, what, 3, 4, 5? Yeah, there was quite a few.
So is there a difference, and this is just for my information, between getting the 3 bids we had for the signs coming before council to choose, and the 3 bids coming from the park board for us to choose from?
I don't understand your question.
So we were only presented with 1 bid from the park board for the surface. Or, I know that the other one you got it's sole source, but for the park surface, the pour-in-place, is that being considered a sole source provider, or will we be seeing? So that's where my question is when we're going to the formal bidding process, does the council make the decision on which of the 3 bids, or is it solely the park board
Well, I
presenting the 1 bid that they want us to consider?
I think there's a lot of things at play with this decision, and I think the waters have been muddied quite a bit with this sole source vendor. We have to remember that the park board is an advisory board, okay? The park board has no authority to spend money. They are bringing you a recommendation based off their due diligence, okay? So the purchasing policy
really is not applicable to the recommendation that the park board is bringing to you. It is applicable to you as a council to decide, given the information that you have, did the park board do their due diligence, and they're presenting you with a reasonable a reasonable product. Same thing with the play surface, is what they're presenting reasonable? Did they do their due diligence? A purchase policy is put in place to protect the city, okay? A purchase policy does not say we have to search every vendor throughout the United States and turn over every rock of potential vendors who could do this, okay? Through their process, I feel, being involved in the process of listening at the meetings, that the park board did their due diligence. We're not using anybody's buddy. We're not using a brother-in-law. We're using a reputable company who has served other communities. So, as this recommendation is brought to the city council, you can decide. Did the board do their due diligence? Okay, it is your policy. You can make whatever decision you want regarding that policy. Okay, the policy is in place to protect the city, to make sure that we're not giving favoritism to anybody, which I don't see that we're not. This is a company out of New York who provides this specific service to the, providing the specific service to us. They work with other communities. They do a lot of different things. So I think the decision tonight is the recommendation reasonable from the park board? Did they do their due diligence? Are they providing a reasonable estimate to you? And I feel it's very important, like Connor said, that the council makes a decision. We know from the community that this is something that our community wants. They want play. In nearly every survey that we've done, even before my time, the playground is the recurring theme. We want something done with the playground. And I think the can's been kicked down the road a long time, and people are starting to lose faith in the city by saying we're going to do this. Because every time we try to make a decision, something happens and it's derailed for whatever reason, and we have to go through this process or this process. And that's why we put the park board back together to make this decision. And that's the decision that they're bringing, or the recommendation that they're bringing you tonight. I also think it's very important, Connor brought up a good point. We need to show a united front that this is important to our community. This is what our community wants. So when he goes out and does his fundraising, he doesn't get any pushback or question that there's a division in this community. I think it's a reasonable ask of the park board for the city to provide $310,200. We have almost $465,000 sitting in the bank that we've been saving for at least the last 5 years, promising people that we're going to do this. We have set aside property tax money to go directly towards funding these park improvements, and we've just been sitting on them. I think it's time to act and time to do something. So your decision tonight is this a reasonable, proposal or recommendation from the park board? Did they do their due diligence? Did they do research? And I think the answer you will find through everything that you have heard from different people tonight is yes. Does everybody agree? Absolutely not. Nobody is ever going to agree. But I praise the park board for what they did, because I see what they talked about at the meetings. I was involved in those meetings. I have had conversation after conversation after conversation from individual board members outside of meetings, answering questions, asking guidance on policy. And in my opinion, they have done their due diligence.
I have a couple things I'd like to say, because I do know that you guys have done a lot of work towards this. I have, this week we finally got copies of your park board minutes, and nowhere in there does it ever mention what the bids were. So what we're comparing them to. So as far as that goes, I don't know what was compared. I do know what was in the minutes. I do know that budget was not really discussed in several of the ones that I looked at. So I am concerned with that. With that being said, regardless of whether I vote for this or against it, if it is the will of this council to move forward with it, I will back it 100%, because it's not about what I want. It is, we are a governing body, and I'm only one. I will say that, kind of what Connor was saying, that I think sometimes we have to hope for the best, but we have to prepare for the worst. We have to consider what's going to happen both ways. I also want to thank Janet Bradbury for something that she said, reminding me what our community did about 6 years ago in saving the Playhouse. That was a very big ask. We had the outside of the Playhouse was crumbling, and it took a lot to get that taken care of. It was a lot of community effort. It was our Arts Council coming together, our Chamber of Commerce, the city. It was a joint effort, and we did. We came together as a community and raised it, and saved the Playhouse because of the issues that we were having. So, am I concerned with some of the policy? Yes, I think the policies are in place not just to protect us if somebody is doing something shady. They're in place to make sure that every time we are following the same process, regardless of whether it's a IT, the sign, or a multi-million or $500,000 project at the park. There's a reason that we've put those policies in place. I am not sure why those 3 bids aren't being shared with us. I understand recommending one, but just like on the sign and on the IT, we see several bids and we get to make that decision. If we don't see them, how do we make that decision that we really were comparing apples to apples and not bananas to oranges, which are both different? But those are my concerns. I am concerned with the shade, because when I looked back through the park master plan in preparation, that was highly sought after, was the shade in the area for the playgrounds. And I know we have trees in the area. They're not very large and they don't provide a lot of shade. So I am concerned with that as well. Is it something we can do later? Is it something that we want to do a phased in approach? Absolutely. When this council first saw the park plan several years ago, it was a phased in approach. We knew it was going to take a while to do all of the phases. So those are some of my comments, and whatever somebody else has something to say.
Any other discussion, council?
I would just like to personally say thank you to everybody that's invested in us, from the park board over this past year, for everyone's passion for this, and just a thank you to everybody's perspective and opinion, and I just appreciate that. So, a special thank you to the park board.
Okay, council, I would entertain a motion.
I move we accept the park board recommendation as presented and authorize the allocation of $310,200 for playground equipment, authorizing the city administrator to sign the play by design contract.
I'll second.
Motion by council member Hedstrom, second by council member Brewer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
And I want to make it clear, I am not opposed to the playground. I am not at all. I just highly encourage us to follow our policies and procedures that we have put forth. And I do not believe that that happened I don't believe this was a sole source provider. And otherwise, we wouldn't have had such division coming from the park board. But at the same time, I do appreciate what you guys have done. I really do. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Teresa. I understand the 3 bids and that's always a preferred method, but we do have a sole source ability to take that. And I think they've explained why it was sole source, and I know we disagree with that.
I would say I disagree that this was sole source.
Right.
I think that we got 3 bids, and that in and of itself says it was not sole source. So, and I don't believe that, so we can hash it out all day long, it's not gonna change my opinion, but at the same time, and I'm gonna stand by what I said, I'm behind this. I will support it, my name's already on a plaque at the park, it can be on another one.
Conrad,
That's
take
an
that as
option?
a, take that as a commitment
I
to
don't know.
donate.
I have a QR code here.
My only request is if we do it again, this time I would like my name spelled properly. So,
Then it's spelled Teresa.
no H. That's okay. They got my last name right.
You see a Sharpie mark on
Yeah.
there.
So with the motion passing 4-1, I also want to say with the governing body's decision, I too am fully in support of moving forward, and it's going to be time to heal and come together and build the best playground that we can for the city of Kechi. So thank you everyone who contributed. So we will move on to our next agenda item, managed IT cybersecurity. City Administrator Densby?
Mayor and Council, the next item before you is our managed IT and security services. We have been serviced by a company, DOS, for quite a few years. We have had some issues with them, talked to them about those issues. They haven't corrected themselves, so we felt we should put this out for RFP to see what else is out there. We followed our city purchasing policy, we released this as an RFP, we got 4 quotes back. 2 from local companies, Imagine IT, our current provider, Digital Office Systems, and 2 out-of-state companies, Enzo and Corsica. In speaking with 2 out-of-state companies, they have no local presence, so we didn't consider them. If there were somebody to come on site, it would be a third-party contractor who would come on site and perform the service, and that's one of the issues that we have is timeliness of response to our services. So.
Don't touch me as well. Thanks. No, ma'am. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Did you have
So we threw out the 2 out-of-state companies, and then through our evaluation process, decided on our recommendation on Imagine IT based off the factors provided in your packet here. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Also, James from Imagine IT, there he is. I've been out in the lobby all night. Sorry for the wait, James.
Apologize for the wait, sir.
That's okay. He is here to answer any questions that you may have. Making this change will save the city some money when it comes to IT services. An estimated $653 per month, which equates to almost $8,000 a year. Imagine IT comes highly recommended. Some of our neighboring cities, Bel Air specifically, uses Imagine IT. They service, if I'm correct in my number, about 20 regional cities. They really specialize in municipalities. The current vendor we were one of 2 municipalities in the state of Kansas that they service. So municipalities or government agencies, when it comes to IT, specifically security services, there's some nuances that are very important, especially when it comes to security with our connections to the state. As it really applies to the police department, the Kansas criminal justice system requires special certifications to work on the system, to access the system, to do anything in the system. Imagine IT is certified in those areas. So we're open to any questions you may have. Our recommendation as staff is that you approve the recommendations for Imagine IT and authorize us to start the transfer process of all of our data.
Council, any questions?
I guess my only question really is, so when we put this out for an RFP, did we reach out? How did we put out our RFPs, I guess? What was the process?
Yeah, we posted it on our city website.
But we didn't reach out directly to any local companies?
No.
We didn't, okay, so. Because I guess when I looked, I was surprised, I was very surprised that some of the companies that we've reached out to before, that we didn't actually reach out. Because I know in the past, when we've done RFPs, we actually reached out to companies that we were interested in hearing from and not just, hey, did you happen to catch it on our website? So did we put it on Facebook or anything that was just on the website?
We put it on our website. I believe that's what our policy said.
Okay, thank you.
It's with switching to a new vendor, supplier, or whatever, how long will that transition take?
James, you want to speak?
Yeah, so the transition process, we allow for roughly about 30 days. That's just to make sure that there's no issues with the city. It allows us to kind of work alongside the current provider to make sure we get passwords and all the necessary information. One of the things we try not to do is make it a rushed type of situation, because when you rush into those situations, sometimes there's human error, things can get missed. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that the experience for the city and the staff is acceptable. Well, not just acceptable, but beyond acceptable. Sorry, so it's been a long evening. So it does take about 30 days. Now, if it was a situation where we had to expedite, we have additional technicians we can bring in and we can push things through. But typically about 30 days.
And to expound on that a little bit, there's language in the contract with our current provider, as there is, will be in the contract with them, that anytime we terminate services, that that's part of it, is the transfer of information.
Yes.
Anyone else? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept the staff's recommendation, approve the selection of Imagine IT as the city's managed IT and cybersecurity service provider. Secondly, to authorize the city administrator to execute a service agreement and ongoing documents. Third, authorize transition planning with the current provider to ensure continuity of operations and data security.
Second. Motion by Councilmember Brewer, second by Councilmember Baldridge. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, sir. Again, my apologies.
No, it's okay. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy evening. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Thanks, James.
Okay. Moving on. Council reports and discussion. Does anyone have any reports? I am not going to give the mayor's report at the second meeting any longer. I'm only going to do it at the first meeting of the month to cut back on things. Otherwise, we'll jump into discussion. Okay. So this is just a discussion. K254 Rockwood Greenwich, KDOT has them under a study right now. It's this information was all basically sent out to you all. That they're doing a safety study and they're focusing on one interchange that will likely happen. Likely it will be on web. In attending the open house, on February 5th, and then the stakeholder meeting on February 6th, I had talked to the engineers quite extensively, and I had brought up the concern that this study is falling short of what we actually need. And is there the possibility that it could be extended to become not only a safety study, but also more of an urbanization corridor study. With the amount of growth and development that is happening or proposed to be happening in both Bel Air and Kechi. My concern is that if the study only stays where it's at, we're only going to get this much with K254 when there's a potential of needing a lot more than that. After the stakeholder meeting, Mayor Jim Benaj approached myself, and Thomas was there as well, and we had a discussion, and he was very pleased about the discussion on wanting to see if KDOT and the engineering firm that had won the bid would be willing to expand the scope of the current project. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so in the timeline right now, it's in the discovery phase, and so we do need to take some pretty quick action. If there's now a proposed two-mayor letter, there's a draft that you've all had to read the latest draft of it. There's no commitment to anything about this, what the scope of the project comes out to. There's no financial commitment. But the one thing is about this project is it's already been approved to go from study to design. And so, and then there's no funding, which usually happens with KDOT. But our hope is that if they're willing to expand the scope of the project, we will have a better phased look at what can happen as growth and development happens, and we won't be behind where just one interchange area is looked at to improve. Next slide, please. It is currently stated that in their safety study that 44% of the crashes between Rock, Webb, and Greenwich either involved fatalities or injury-related accidents. So this is where we felt like too that yes, it's a safety study, but it's falling short of really looking at the full picture of what is happening. Next slide, please. So this is the scope of the project. The yellow line is the specific scope of the project. There's even some stakeholders that have talked about they would like to see Woodlawn drawn back into it to see if that interchange overpass needs to be upgraded. But the main thing is asking them to look at Webb as the main interchange that would have on and off ramps, and then looking at the potential of what could happen at Rock and Greenwich. And arterial roads would be 53rd in Bel Air. They've already identified that. They also have frontage road land available. And for Kechi, it would actually be 69th, which is currently Sedgwick County. And I have also talked to Commissioner Pete Meitzner, and he's also supportive of the two-mayor letter. And that's the with the comp plan for Kechi, that 69th out to Webb is part of our comp plan growth expectation. So 69th would eventually be in the city limits if annexation occurred out to Webb. And we do currently have Tigua that can serve as a partial frontage road currently. And the last slide, please. So this is the specific things that are in the draft right now, is the recommendations that have been made to ask them to expand the scope of the project study. And the Bel Air City Council has already looked at it, and they have added or taken away, and the K254 Corridor Development Association has also looked at this and had discussion, and so far all the other bodies are supportive of moving forward with the two-mayor letter, but the final decision rests upon this governing body, whether you are interested in us moving this two-mayor letter forward and seeking KDOT to expand the scope. And we also talked to the engineer, one of the engineers with the engineering firm that's doing the scope, and the engineering company was also very favorable in what we were seeking to ask them. So, council, it's up to you and your decision. If there's anything you want taken out, something you want added in, Like I said, there's no commitment to any projects. We're just asking them to give us a bigger picture and to do additional presentation of how these intersections at K254 could be improved going forward, looking at future growth and expansion. Any questions? Any comments?
So I do have a question for you.
Sure.
So I know you've been attending these meetings, and I know how these interstate interchange projects can take time.
Yes.
Has there been any like projected dates, like 2030, 2035, is this going to happen in our lifetime? I guess.
Yeah. So, and this is actually part of why we're pushing on this a bit. When they did the corridor study 2 years ago for the whole corridor, but they took out these 3 intersections because there was a large development that was supposed to come in to Bel Air that has not come in. There were some things that they were going to do that would be in the nearer future, but the corridor in general could be 20 to 30 years. But they also recognize that most of the growth on the corridor right now, the proposed or projected, is coming in Bel Air, a lot in Bel Air, and that Kechi is actually also starting to develop in ways that they weren't expecting from looking at the comp plans.
So they really didn't give you any advice?
So we don't know. The hope is that it would be sooner than later, especially it would be like the initial overpass. If it ends up being web that's identified, that would probably be on a shorter list to get funding. And the other 2 would probably be a little later, but it's like trying to push. I'm also, if this goes forward, trying to work, both Joe and I are trying to work with contacting our state representatives.
That's my next question.
Yes, to also get our state representatives. I've already talked to our state senator, and he is actually supportive as well and is willing to speak up on our behalf. Okay. I just need a decision by the council whether you want this to go forward or not.
I'm for it.
So do you need a motion or?
I don't know.
Andrew, do we need?
Well, so
Do we just need
so
to
what?
get this?
Are you going to sign? I mean, it's just a matter of are you going to sign the letter as the mayor, or do you want
Yes,
to-
it is the 2 mayors.
So she's just writing it on her behalf.
If you just sign it on your own behalf, if you want
Exactly.
them to sign it, then I suppose that
Yeah,
you're
it was
full
just
of that.
both mayors felt that we
So
should not choose
Indication
to
of
go
support.
forward without the support of our council.
Indication of support, and then you sign it as fine.
Yes.
Whatever you want to handle is fine.
Okay.
All in favor?
Great, thank you so much for that. One other discussion item, it'll be a quick one, because we have to just make a decision really quick. Yeah, I think everyone's laughing. Okay, PEC, we have water sewer capability expansion workshop with Trevor, and we've been talking about the importance that we need to make some decisions about utility infrastructure. And so we have the possibility of scheduling a council workshop prior to the March 12th council meeting at 6. But it's a big topic, and so do we want to not be constrained and be able to ask questions, and not end up having the workshop kind of cut short of what we'd hoped to? Or do we want to schedule a special meeting separately where we don't have to worry about a time constraint behind the workshop? Where we would have a meeting like at 7 and he'd come in to do the presentation. It's a big topic. Do you feel like an hour's enough time or not?
Don't know the extent of.
I don't know any details.
I could see that being a longer topic. Well, okay, here's the thing. If we schedule it for a 7 o'clock meeting, it's gonna take 30 minutes. If we schedule it at 6 o'clock, it's gonna take 2 hours.
So if we schedule a workshop, I mean, what's the timeline on this? If we, I mean, sometimes we do multiple workshops, like we'll have one at 6, and then 2 weeks later we'll have another one at 6 because we didn't get done.
You're right. I know.
I would just say take our chances with a 6 o'clock workshop and see where
Okay,
it goes from there.
okay. And then the other question is, if we wanna do that, is there the possibility, can people potentially be here at 5:30 on the 12th? Or is that too tight for work schedules? That would give us a little extra time.
Depends on the day.
Oh, it would be the council meeting Thursday.
Well,
But it depends on the day what unfolds at work.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I have flexibility.
Do we wanna do plan for 5:30 on the 12th, or is that too tight for you? That's okay.
Well, okay, because of the commitment that I just made this week,
Yeah.
practice doesn't get over till 5:15.
Let's just plan on 6, and if we need to
Okay.
schedule a second
Okay.
meeting, then we can schedule a second meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, from our meeting with TC today, I think they can curtail their presentation to whatever
Let's shoot
time.
for 1 at 6, and that way you guys have a better chance of, I would rather have a full
Yeah.
council than.
Absolutely. Yep, so we'll plan for 6 o'clock on the 12th to have Trevor come and do a workshop.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if we're gonna have that prior to the meeting, we need to recess this
Yes.
meeting.
You can either recess this one, or you can make a motion to call a special meeting right now, however you want to handle it, fine.
Okay. I don't know what's.
Recess, let's just recess, that's the normal process.
Okay.
Recess.
Okay.
Recess.
Yeah. So moving on, are there any requests from the council tonight? Is there any requests from the council?
My only request, and I would hope it'd be a quick one, is on the visa statements, it only says who spent what. It doesn't say generically what it was spent for, like office supplies or something along that line, meeting attendance. I would like to see it say, give some kind of description of the item on the visa, just so that we can see basically what it's accounting for.
You always have me just write a general description. Now you're wanting something different?
Yes, I am.
I think that's an internal control we can talk about. I'll make sure we have a very stringent review process on all of our accounting stuff, so, yeah, we'll make sure everything's coded the way it should be.
Well, it's, for me, it's not a matter of coding it the way it should be. It's when I'm looking at and I will say, yes, you're right, Debbie, because when I was looking at them before, I was looking at them like I'm seeing it. But when I look at it from a approving body standpoint, I think having an idea of, when you see an $800 expenditure versus a $30 expenditure and versus a 13-cent expenditure on one of them one day. I'm kind of curious as to what it is that's being expended. Where are those kind of divvying out? Where is it fitting into the budget?
So, yeah, I'm just,
Each of those charges on the credit card go through the invoice approval process.
yeah, so, yeah, a purchase is made, it's approved by the department head. It's approved by me, it's reviewed by me, it's reviewed by a council member, it's reviewed by the mayor.
I don't review any visa things that I'm aware of.
The visa statements are attached to the checks that you sign.
She doesn't sign a check. Visa statements don't go through the check.
It doesn't, I don't see them.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
So,
we can provide
So
those.
do you want just like what they're coded to? Do you
No,
want?
just like, so office supplies.
Okay.
Is it for, attending a training?
Hotel, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, because just like on anything else, if it was a check, we have that it's for electricity, it was for the taser, it was for
Yes.
copies. We know what that expenditure
Yeah, I think
is tied to.
that's being done if I understand
So, okay,
your
when-
question correctly. Yeah,
No,
it's already
when I-
being done.
It doesn't show
No,
on the
on
report.
on
It
the
just shows that
report, it simply says whose visa it was.
But those,
I don't-
okay, let me explain. What it's for is written on the receipt itself, so it's
Okay,
there.
so I'm talking-
Incorporating it into a report is just a redundancy, which creates extra work for our staff.
Okay,
But
so-
what I would suggest is
So-
if you want to review those, they're open to the public. Anybody can come in and review those statements that if you want to come in and review those, we'll make them available to you. I don't know.
So my request was simply to say, everything else on here, when it's a check, it says what it was for.
we paid for it with a Visa. So we have that it was paid for, that we know how it was paid, but we don't know what was paid. And when I see this, I am curious as to where the breakdown is. And if we have the description on the others, can we do descriptions on the visas? That's my request, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay, we will consider.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to recess to March 12th at 6 p.m. for a special workshop. Did I say that right?
That'll work.
Thank you.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Heston, second by Councilmember Moreland. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are recessed. Thank you, everyone who endured.